And I think we're live on the new setup. All right, so I've been busy over the holidays. I've been busy over Christmas and New Year's. I got a little credit card happy, swipey. And as you can tell, I hope, things have improved around here. I've got a spy in the audience letting me know if I sound all right. This is the first time going live with the new rig, new computer, new camera, new mic, new everything. Let's see if my spy has found me. So the plan is that we are going to go live twice a week from now on, schedule permitting if I'm in town and all that. And we're going to record the YouTube segments, record the YouTube videos while live. So you guys are going to get to hang out while I make my YouTube videos. I'll go live for a few hours. I'll do little, 15-minute spurts where I actually hit record. And then those will turn into the YouTube videos that get posted on my channel and stuff. That's the plan. So thinking Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. So it's Tuesday morning. This is the first of what should be many for the rest of the year. And yeah, we're going to be going. Okay. I got a text from my spy that it looks good. They said, looks good, sounds good. All right. So we're good. So we're chilling. Let me see if I actually can get chat up. Is anyone talking in chat? I don't see it if anyone is. Okay, my spy likes my shirt and I sound perfect. Okay. Hey spy, can you type in chat for me real quick, if possible? Why does the chat window not stay present if I go to my browser? Oh my gosh, that's highly annoying. All right, well, we're gonna rock with it. So I've done some minimal prep. Okay. Thank you, Spy. I appreciate you. I've done some minimal prep on what we're going to chat about. And so as you guys pop in, or if you're watching this on the VOD, shout out whatever you want to talk about. I've done some minimal, hey, let's talk about these things. I'm going to pull up my newsletter from last week. We'll talk about some of that stuff. Too, but I saw this one thread that I was like, I got to make this a YouTube video. We'll pull up my newsletter real quick too. Let me log in so I actually get my newsletter. Let me log into my own newsletter. This is crazy talk, but this will be good, because then we can pull that up and see what kind of stuff we want to go through. But the first thing I want to chat about was I saw Track It Pacer. Everyone raise your hand if you know Track It Pacer. No one's here. But Track It Pacer was reacting to what they're calling the slop apocalypse going on in the iOS App Store right now. Apparently, that is not the email that I am. Whatever. Okay. We're going to be logged out of my newsletter. That's okay. Because we're not going to do this yet anyway. So Track It Pacer made a video. Let's live react to her video. Okay. I'm going to pull it up. Let's get things going. This is Track It Pacer. If you guys don't follow her on all platforms, she's awesome. She makes network engineering content and she puts freaking rockets in space. Her networks go to space. Coolest job ever. But here's her slop apocalypse video. Let's make sure we have sound. I hope you guys can hear this. Again, everything's going to be a first timer situation here, but
the Slopocalypse. There's a hacker who's posting on Twitter right now about how he's taking on the Apple App Store, specifically the fact that it's chock full of AI slop coded vibe coded garbage. He's essentially going through all the apps and making a database to document which ones are the worst offenders, which ones are the least secure, and specifically the ones that are leaking user data. Heads up, there's a lot of them, so you want to check out this list. VX Underground is reporting on it on Twitter as well. This person, Harrison, has identified, as of, I don't know, a couple hours ago, 198 iOS apps that leak information on users in some capacity. We're talking about like millions and millions of users' data, specifically vibe-coded apps that were made for AI interactions. For example, you chatting with an AI assistant. Yeah. All of your chats, all of your messages sent, receive the content of them, your name, your email, etc. All of that's being exposed publicly. The top offender right now is an app called Chat and Ask AI by Codeway, which has apparently exposed 18 million users' information, including their name, their email, the creation date of their account, and then everything they've sent and received, including the content of their messages and their voice chats with this AI. And then, of course, there's the extra depressing stuff, which is the fact that some users are using these vibe-coded, unsecure AI chat apps for CSAM material. Yeah, pretty depressing, pretty fucked up. Anyway, if you want to see if any of the apps on your phone are vibe-coded slop, you can go to Harrison's database, which is going to be linked in this video and in the description and in my story, etc., etc., etc. It's called Firehound. Stay safe out there, and remember, if you're talking to an AI chatbot on the internet, you probably don't want to tell it anything that you wouldn't want the government or your grandma to know.
Yes. My grandma, highly into OSINT Twitter accounts, so definitely will be following this stuff. All right, so this is the gist of the app. So we're going to record this as a YouTube video. Just wanted to kind of like introduce this. So we're going to record a YouTube video while live. So I don't know. I've never done this. You guys are going to see I make a lot of mistakes and mess up a bunch, but it's all right. We're going to do it. It's going to be fun. So let's start. I'm going to hit record. Apologies for the bumps. I've got like a Stream Deck set up so I can like hit record. It's going to record local files while I'm live. How cool is all this? Okay, my spy is out and they said that is good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to hit record and then we're going to intro the video and all this. And you guys are going to hang out and you can ask questions and stuff. All right, I'm recording. All right, so we've reached the slopocalypse, the AI vibe-coded slop that isn't just social media memes anymore and like really weird videos that are making RAM cost all this money because we need to be able to generate, I don't know, bunnies on a trampoline. No, we are now to a point where it has become very, very easy to generate iOS apps. But guess what happens when you vibe code a bunch of iOS apps for people who have never been developers before? They don't make the most secure apps ever. Mind-blowing, I know, right? That like someone who's never coded an app before in their life just says, hey, Claude, make me an app that does this, make no mistakes. Turns out they make mistakes. So we're going to jump right into this. This is the slopocalypse, as VX Underground is calling it on Twitter. He is also talking about this OSINT researcher called Harrison, and he created this app called Firehound. The reason he called it Firehound is because the main mistake that all of these people are making is by using Firebase as their data store and then not configuring the like permissions properly on Firebase at all, which leads them to leak all sorts of personal information online. So they have identified 198 iOS apps. This was at the time of recording, but I do have the database up, and I think that number is still accurate, even though this Twitter thread came out last night. And the apps are mostly related to AI. So they're like AI wrapper type apps. And this one that's like really bad is this Chat and Ask AI by Codeway, which has 18 million users using this app. And all of them had their name, email, the creation date, and all of the messages sent and received to this AI bot and their voice chats and anything exposed. 400 million plus messages, including some really disturbing chats, because apparently one of the main uses of a lot of these like vibe coded apps is to actually interact with them in a way that would be illegal on the internet and does involve CSAM. So obviously this isn't the only app. This is just the biggest one. So we've got the AI slop for all things education, entertainment, graphic design, health, fitness, all this kind of stuff. The second biggest offender on the slopometer, okay, VX Underground, you're too funny to be as smart as you are, is this study group, which has 2 million users, including their AI tokens, which again, you could steal and then use, against the API to get like free usage of these things. User ID, user key, and the chats sent and received. People think that these are private chats that they're having with these AI bots, and they're not. So I wanted to pull up this Firehound app. It's also kind of funny because I think this is the Vercel emoji. So there's a good chance that Harrison also vibe coded at least part of this, but he seems like a security-minded person, so that's all right. So I opened a new tab because the first time that I opened this app, this window popped up and I didn't want to lose it. But it says, if you're a developer of an application listed in our registry, please contact our security team. We will promptly remove your listing and provide guidance on remediation. So this was just cool, like, goodwill to the community, responsible disclosure. Hey, I found a bunch of vulnerabilities. Here they are. Not quite responsible disclosure when you just say like, here are all these vulnerable apps. Responsible disclosure has a specific definition. It's not public disclosure, which is what he's doing, but he's trying to be somewhat responsible. I guess this is a half step towards responsible disclosure, saying, hey, if you're on here, reach out and, we'll remove you. So pretty slick app that we can like look through and figure out. This was the one that they were talking about that was the biggest offender, this Chat and Ask AI by Codeway. And we could start to see all of the different like data structures and what's actually exposed in this Firebase content, right? So we have their chats, 388 million records of the actual chat. We have redacted content here, I think probably because a bunch of it was illegal, so he couldn't, in his vulnerability disclosure, start to publish a bunch of the content from these users. But we have 18 million users, so this is okay. Data Explorer, educational purposes only, redacted sample data, no unauthorized access. So like, hey, like they're just saying, hey, this is here. We're not going to give it to you because that would also be bad and illegal. But here you go, 198 iOS apps scanned, 196 of them with exposed data. So it's apparently super common. I think there's this vibe code app thing. It's kind of like an AI agent for creating iOS apps that has just exploded in popularity recently. And so there's just more and more. I think I saw some stat that there was like 24,000 iOS apps published in the last couple months because of the like popularity of these AI agents that make it so easy to go from idea to published app, which is, I think it's a good thing that these agents are enabling otherwise like less technical people to make their ideas a reality. I think, it's going to be a net good. Like we're going to get, cool things that otherwise maybe people couldn't climb the learning curve and create. And I think creation is good, but obviously there's, a few caveats there. One being security and privacy. If you're not a technical person and you don't kind of take this seriously. If you had this many users, I'd be super, super stressed. I get it if you're like MVPing and you're just like prototyping what you're doing. But as soon as you have like any sort of substantial users, and I'm talking like tens, dozens of users, you have to start taking their data and their experience and their security very seriously, right? If you're like passing it around your friends and family while you're, vibe coding an idea, I get it. Whatever. It happens. Like move fast, break things. Cool. But once you have like strangers using your app, it's a whole different story. You're taking their money, they're strangers, you're taking their data. There's a implicit social contract at that point that they need to be able to trust you. And to get to 18 million people and to not have a single security-minded person evaluate your app to say, hey, by the way, you're using Firebase, and it's like wide open to the internet permissions for all of the data that you're storing, including all of your chats. This guy, Harry, not to say he's not bright. I looked at his Twitter account. He does this for a living. He finds vulnerabilities places. This was not like needed, some security expert to see the stuff that he's got in this database. These are just open Firebase databases to the internet. So obviously these chat apps are like, A, they're at the top of this pile because of the number of users. B, the kinds of data that is going to be leaked is obviously going to be way more sensitive with these chat apps, right? Because people think they're having a private chat with an AI bot and they're not, right? And so people are describing, people use AI apps in very, very different ways than I think that the general public realizes, or maybe they do, but we all just collectively don't acknowledge it or talk about it a whole lot. That people are using these things as their therapists, as their life coach, as their financial advisor, as their personal trainer. People are talking to these things like a trusted advisor in a way that I don't think that they would talk publicly because it seems to be private. Actually, that's a good idea to pull up real quick. What? Didn't I do that? Oh, the slash. Where was it? Yeah. To drive this point home, I probably want to make a separate video about this Confer.2 app that Moxie Marlinspike created. He's the creator of Signal, which is a pioneer of end-to-end encryption and privacy on the internet. It's a secure messenger app. It's the one I recommend. It's open source. Confer.2, also open source, by the way, is a privacy-first AI chat experience. So Moxie has, and again, it deserves its own video about the privacy. But the point I wanted to make based on what we were just talking about is that Moxie makes is the medium, this AI chat interface influences people's behavior, right? Google search never felt like a personal experience. It felt like I am exchanging some random set of keywords to you, Google, and this search interface is then returning me results, right? Now, with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, it feels like an assistant. They've humanized it. So what does millions of years of evolution do to us? Well, we're going to interact with that like it is a trusted assistant. He says, search trained us to be transactional. Keywords in, links out. When you type something into a search box, it has the feeling of broadcasting something to a company rather than communicating in an intimate space. The conversational format is different. When you're chatting with an assistant, your brain pattern matches to millennia of treating dialogue as intimate. You elaborate, you think out loud, you share context. That's a big part of what makes it so much more useful than search. You can iterate, elaborate, change your mind, ask follow-up questions. I completely agree. While I personally don't, trust AI enough to treat it like my therapist, I definitely treat it differently than a search box. And I do think out loud and iterate and follow up and all this kind of stuff. He says he brings this back to Signal. The initial premises was visual interfaces of our tools should faithfully represent the way the underlying technology works. If a chat interface shows a private conversation between two people, it should actually be a private conversation between two people rather than a group chat with a bunch of unknown parties underneath the interface. This was such a good point. This is why I had to bring it up in this context. So for Signal, it looks like you're in a regular text message and it is end-to-end encrypted. So he is faithfully representing the two people that can read that chat. Signal, the company, cannot read your chat. Neither can a law enforcement agency that shows up to Signal headquarters, knocks on the door, hands over a scary piece of paper and says, I need to read, mattjay's chats with this people because I think that he's doing something, whatever the hell. Signal doesn't have it. They can't give it over to that agency, right? That's what the whole end-to-end encryption thing is. I get comments every time I talk about this that say, what about Tucker Carlson? Signal's compromised, blah, blah, blah. It's end-to-end encrypted. If an end is compromised, if a phone is compromised, that's one end. Of course, the phone can get hacked. Spyware exists, right? But Signal itself is not compromised. It's open source. It's end-to-end encrypted. We know what's going on between those two ends. Once it gets to the end, we have no control over it. Signal doesn't have any control over your iPhone. Spyware exists, right? But at least they are saying we are faithfully representing that this is, a two-person chat. He's saying AI assistants are failing this test of representing that harder than ever before. We're using LLMs for unfiltered thinking that we might do in a private journal, except that's an API endpoint into a data lake that is designed for extracting meaning and context. We are shown a conversational interface with an assistant, but if we were an honest representation, it would be a group chat with all of OpenAI's executives, employees, business partners, service providers, hackers who will compromise that plain text data. He doesn't even leave that up to question. And the future advertisers who will almost certainly emerge, and the lawyers and governments who will subpoena access. I think this drives the point home if we go back to the topic du jour of the hackers that will compromise the chat app stuff, right? So this obviously wasn't OpenAI being hacked, but this is a wrapper, right? Chat and Ask AI by Codeway was not rolling their own models with their multi-trillion-dollar data centers or anything like that. They're passing this on to the big models. They're just a wrapper. And you were trusting them the same way you would trust OpenAI directly, the 18 million users using Codeway. And guess what happened? Didn't even take a hacker, didn't even take a nefarious hacker, took a good guy researcher to, publish this and try to get these things fixed by disclosing to the developers. I wanted to bring up, sidebar really quick. I wanted to bring up, there was a thread about the kinds of CSAM that they found, which was kind of disturbing, but worth talking about. I thought it was on Harry's page. Let's see. No. Yeah, here it is. So checking out Harry, this is the researcher who published this Firehound thing. He talks about some of the disturbing stuff that he found while combing through this data. And I'm glad that we don't have to sit here and do this today. My therapy bills would go up. He's talking about how, we've been seeing AI-generated CSAM stuff for a bit now. I very disturbingly saw some publicly on Twitter while I was just scrolling on the app. I saw Grok generate some images that made me sick to my stomach. Okay, they were images of a little kid being touched inappropriately, even though obviously Grok had guardrails about clothing and things like that. It still was a disgusting image that I did not want to see while just like trying to get my news on, right? But what Harry says is, as he was going through the data in this, in these conversations, is he's estimating that 90% of the CSAM being generated by AI is text-based, which is something I didn't really think of either because of the whole Grok thing that we just went through over the last couple of weeks, which was obviously people testing the limits of Grok to generate inappropriate images. Harry is saying, in the sloppocalypse land, right, of these vibe-coded apps that people are using, because probably their guardrails aren't the same as the mainline apps, because again, like we're in the Wild West right now of code and security and privacy. So you got to imagine the guardrails around what kinds of prompts they allow or disallow would be lax, let's go with. People are talking to these AI apps with text prompts that are trying to, in one example, he said a user asked the AI to pretend that it's 8 years old and learning to use the bathroom and to output the imagery and to output the imaginary child's internal monologue. This is about as disturbing as I'd like to get in this video. I read some other stuff, but I just wanted to kind of drive this point home that this is the kind of stuff that's out there. This is the kind of stuff that people are using these random AI chat apps for. And now it's completely public because these apps were not securely coded. Not that I would like to protect child predators. It just really drives the point home. Like Track It Pacer said, it just really drives the point home. Like, do not be talking to these apps if you are saying something that you would not like the government or your grandma to see, as my friend Track It Pacer said in her video. VX Underground again. Too funny to be this smart. Also, just perfect meme. Troy Hunt from Have I Been Pwned seeing 198 vulnerable apps and counting, exposing their users PII. He's going to be busy for months. Oh my God, the slop-pocalypse. All right, so where do you stand on this, the vibe-coded like iOS app stuff? Are we net positive or are we net negative? Obviously, based on this, I think there's going to be a lot of pain between now and some mythical future where we've tipped into more useful, less vulnerable in terms of agents generating apps out there. I think we had this giant capability jump with Opus 4.5 out of Claude, out of Anthropic. If you guys have messed with these tools, I mess with these tools a fair bit, right? And if you've messed with them, you know what I'm talking about, right? We had a world where I think AI coding agents were a tool that talented developers could use. Non-talented people who were non-technical, non-coders could use them to get something that looked like it worked. They looked like they were like about to perform magic. They were able to do things they had never done before by like in terms of generating an app or a website, but it didn't quite work. They could never launch this stuff to the public, right? You still had to know what you were doing to really like get the back end set up. Maybe you had to go set up Cloudflare. If you had to get it from like code on your device to the iOS app store or just, you know, to the web in general, you still had to know what you were doing with DNS and certain things to get things live, right? Databases, whatever. This ecosystem has evolved. Beside Opus 4.5, first of all, made the jump that the agent can actually do a lot of the work without needing to be a skilled developer to get to a quote unquote finished product. It doesn't code itself into issues in the same way. It doesn't break itself. It doesn't get itself into weird loops that like you really need to like know what you're doing to be able to like pull it out and rescue the whole project. So that capability jump is one thing. The second thing is this ecosystem that has like come out around all of this. That is, it's moving at breakneck pace. I'm talking about like, when did Opus 4.5 come out? Halloween, somewhere between Halloween and Thanksgiving. I mean, and right now we're in like the second week of January. We're like, this is absolutely light speed. And the ecosystem that it's generated, we've got what's that app called? Vibecode.app or something like that, where it's going straight from prompt to app store, which is leading to what we're dealing with. We've got things like Supabase and Firebase that are the coding agents are able to interact with without the technical user being able to set up the back end. The agent can do it. The agent can talk to Supabase and create a database. That's new. That's very, very new. So you have these completely unskilled people going from prompt to live app. I mean, we even have Stripe has an MCP server that the agent can spin up stuff in Stripe. So you've got people taking payments and taking data that do not know what they're doing. So I think we have a world of pain in between like now and a theoretical, benefit. But I don't know. I'm obviously a fan and a user of a lot of these agents, but I can also see the absolute carnage and damage that it's causing. Look at what we just went through. And then, I mean, zooming out, like AI chats as a whole without guardrails or any sort of regulations or accountability. Like, are we holding any of these companies accountable for enabling the CSAM stuff that we're talking about, or losing all of the contents of this chat? Is it a chat like that people are having that they think are private? Is that Codeway app going to be held responsible for leaking, 400 million chats contents that people thought were private? I would assume not, or if they would, it would be some fine, right? It's not going to be a meaningful held responsible. So I think right now we're in like a valley of despair situation before some theoretical upside. There's a lot going on. What do you think? I know whenever I talk about this stuff, I get a lot of like pure AI haters in my comments, and I get that. I really do, especially out of like musicians and artists and things like that are really just like seeing kind of the AI slop world really, really start to invade their space. Writers, musicians, the creative people are looking at this and saying, that's not creative. That's not human. You can tell that it's not human. It doesn't have a soul. Completely understand. The coding stuff is crazy going on. All right. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you guys doing all the YouTube things down below if you found this useful, and appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think. Do all the YouTube things down below, subscribe and all that, and follow for more cybersecurity news. All right. I hit record. Recording saved. Now I'm just live, not recording. What's up, Ernesto in chat if you're still here, and Brandon. Thanks for chatting while I was recording. Cool. That was my first time. We'll see if that actually worked. All right. What up, Lee? Lone Twitch person. Yeah. I think so. My problem with Twitch being, separate from YouTube is it's not under my name. So I started my Twitch during COVID when everyone started a Twitch and live streaming and stuff. And I was actually using Twitch to like stream video games. And so, it wasn't really the Twitch meta to like create it under your full government name, right? So there is this disconnect. It's like my one platform that if you go on Twitch and you search for like mattjay or my full name, you won't find me. So you have found me, Lee, and that's cool. You can hang out over there. But I didn't want to like get a new account because I do have affiliate status on that, which was hard to get at the time. So it's like, I don't know. And like changing the name is actually kind of a pain. So I don't know. I'm going to be live on YouTube and Twitch at the same time, but Twitch is going to have to like figure out how to grow on its own or something like that. We do have a few people chilling in YouTube though right now. Yeah, I totally get it. Switch to YouTube. Just happen to have Twitch on in the background. Yeah, that's how I interact with Twitch or any live streams or anything like that in general. It's very like side work, background work type stuff. The thing I don't know if I've given up on, you don't have to switch to YouTube. You can hang out over there. I don't care. It's all one chat for me, by the way. Like I've got this restream thing that I'm using to simultaneously stream to both. And I get like a combined chat in OBS for that. The thing I don't know if I've like given up on or not, is the simultaneous output to the vertical platforms, right? If I like going live, Twitch and YouTube, pretty seamless experience right now. So far, this has all worked this morning. But the like then also simultaneously having the different output for TikTok and Instagram, where I do have like the vast majority of my following is on the short form platforms, but a little bit less seamless, like multi-stream. And TikTok specifically does not expose its chat API back to Restream. So I can like output into TikTok, but then like chat doesn't like come in here. So I don't know if I like what I should do, if I should just abandon that or not. I don't know. We'll see. But the plan is, for anyone here, because I said it at the beginning, probably when no one was here yet. Plan is I'm going to go live. This is my first one with my new rig. Plan is I'm going to go live Tuesdays and Thursday mornings for now, just because that rolls off the tongue. I do have Wednesday morning blocks off too. I just don't know if that's like too much for me in the given week. I'm going to go live from basically when I get into the office, into the studio, all the way through till like probably about lunch. And then, and I'm going to record the YouTube videos that I'll probably do like a few segments while I'm live to record YouTube videos. And then I actually have an editor now that's going to like take a lot of that content and put them out as, you know, regular long form YouTube videos. And then we'll have the VODs, right? We'll have the VOD of the whole live chilling on YouTube too. So that's the plan. So from now through eternity, we're going to be live a couple times a week. Part of what enabled this is, if you guys don't know, I run two companies or two parts of the same company, kind of. Vulnerable You is my content business. That's what you're hanging out in. I sell sponsorships into my YouTube videos and my newsletters, and my Instagram and stuff. And that like basically pays the bills, right? But then I also have an agency where we help cybersecurity companies do technical content, blogs, white papers, social, stuff like that. And I had more than just me in this space, in this office. So on the other side of the camera and monitors, we had some other people kind of sharing this space. It's not a very big space. So I had to kick them out anytime I wanted to like record. But an office, we're in like a co-working location, and an office down the hall became available. And so I nabbed that and kicked everyone else out. So now I have a much more permanent setup. I should probably do like a little video about my setup, because I did many hours of research and purchasing on my new lighting rig, my new camera, my new mic. I've got the Rodecaster Pro, doing a lot of audio processing off my computer to like save some computer load, so I don't have like filters or effects in OBS going on right now. Doing all that on the Rodecaster. So did a massive upgrade, and I bought this new Mac Mini, which is the best bang for your buck, like amount of compute you can buy, like per dollar, going on right now. So it's handling the live stream well. I'm plugged into Ethernet, and I think I've got like 800 megs down or something like that. And it's got enough RAM and processing power to do the stream. And we just did it. We just recorded. Like I hit record. And the recording was recording separate files for both screen output and camera output. So like that'll help with different edits and things like that. So yeah, it's doing the damn thing. What up, Cuscos? Well, I'm glad I could be your first typed into YouTube chat. I don't know if you just caught my like what I'm doing for my life, you know, news, but I'm gonna be doing this a few times a week now. Get you fancy pants having RAM in this market, dude. Mac Mini came like off the shelf, just came with 24 gigs of RAM, and that's not like I was considering doing a Mac Studio, and it had 96 gigs of RAM in it, and it's not even that. Like for the price you can get the Mac Studio, you couldn't even dream of building a similar like gaming rig for that price. So like, yeah, the Mac Studio is expensive, but like bang for your buck on like horsepower, Mac Minis and Mac Studios are the like top. So I went with a Mini. I'm not going to do a whole lot of like local AI stuff. That was the tipping point for me. I was like, oh, if I do any like local LLM work, a Mac Studio would be a decent idea. But I don't know. I spent enough money on the monitors and the lights and the audio and the camera. It was time to save a few bucks. So Mac Mini it is. What'd you say? With regard to portrait, it could become a bit of a moot point depending on Ellison talk. Goes for you. Ellison talk. Oh, that's a good point. Saudi talk. Wild how that goes. Yeah, it could become a moot point for sure. I think, like I said, it's like by far where most of my audience sits, YouTube has been a really, really hard platform to grow for me, for sure. So, it's yeah, it's tough, but Instagram and TikTok are kind of like hockey sticks for me in terms of growth. So it's hard to like not tap into that when possible. All right. So that was like the one segment we just recorded. I don't know if you guys were here when I was recording the video, but that's going to go off to my editor and stuff. Well, I might as well start that upload in case he's sitting, hanging out. What do we got? Footage, sponsor ads. Let's do a new folder. I'm going to get this uploading. I've got all this bandwidth. Might as well use it. Well, I'll let him organize it. Let's see, movies. All right, I think I've got 3 files. Holy crap. 4.5 gigs. The screen is less. And then there should be a combined one. That's one. Okay, yeah. 4.5 gigs, everybody, to record my face cam. Let's get that uploading. That's pretty wild. So we talked about the Sloppocalypse. What else did we want to talk about today? That was like the main one that I knew I wanted to turn into a YouTube video. So I had that like all planned and ready to go. Really annoying. So fun fact for you guys, when I click on my browser, chat disappears. Like the chat window for OBS is like no longer present. Wait, there's a settings button. Can I embed in stream, reply, bot, analytics, filtering, appearance? No, there's not a setting that says don't effing hide this when I go to a new window. Where is it up here? Docs. Lock docs. Okay, I locked the doc. Oh, it didn't do anything. All right. We get to have fun learning curve situation. All right, let me pull up like my news feeds and stuff. Well, we can pull up my newsletter. See what I was talking about last week. Yeah, let's do that. We'll see if I want to record any of this. Shout if you guys like think I should turn anything we're talking about into a new video. First of all, pause. How good does this like new setup look with like my new little face cut out? I'm not like in a little zoom corner anymore. I've got like the nice bigger video for the embed. I don't know. It's kind of cool. All right. So, what was I talking about? So if you guys don't know my newsletter, I write it Thursday night, or like it takes me a bunch of hours on Thursday to write this, to the point that like everyone in my life, like my daughter and all my friends, know that Thursday is newsletter night. And it's like Matt's stressing out to like get the newsletter out the door. So this comes out Friday morning. So we're recording this on Tuesday. Yesterday was like MLK, so we were all off. So this is all still like somewhat fresh. Oh yeah, should we do the Confer video? I brought Confer up in my last video, but I think it deserves its own YouTube video. Yeah, we're going to do that before we get off live today for sure. So if you guys don't know, Moxie made this like new private AI chat app. If you weren't here when I just was recording my last video and I talked about it, but it's so clever. It's so clever. So he's been blogging it all. And like one of the things that is super, super unique, and of course Moxie just like thinks of this, is he's using like the same strategies and architecture that Apple is using in its confidential compute. I should probably try to bring that up. Let me try Apple confidential cloud compute. Is this it? They wrote a serious blog. Yeah, back in June. Wow. One shot it. Way to go. let's bring this on screen. So if you guys don't know what cloud, like the private compute, confidential compute, this is, I don't know, it's probably one of the biggest advancements in cloud computing since cloud computing. Am I overstating that? I don't think I am. So Apple basically had this like really hard decision to make when they were trying to do more AI stuff on iOS, right? So they could either try to do some, Siri 2.0 nonsense on device, and it would be bad, right? Like there's only so much you can actually do on pocket level hardware, right? In the AI space. So they had this decision to make, right? They were like, we either kind of like double down on Siri being Siri and it's like not actually good, or like what people have come to, expect when it comes to like AI chat experience now. Like I'm annoyed anytime Siri pops up on my phone, right? I've never like purposefully been like, great, let's do Siri. I mean, very rare instances when I like can't use my hands or something like that. I'll try to like speak into my watch, and it's never good, right? It's never good. I can ask like very basic questions, maybe set a timer, but it's not a good experience. Same with Alexa, right? The Echo devices. It's like embarrassingly bad for them that they got those two things that wrong, like for what they are compared to like what everyone's doing now with like the AI chat experience, right? So so Apple basically has this decision to make, right? Like either they're going to double down on that mediocre experience, or they're going to ship a lot of that work off to the server, off to their cloud, and not keep it on device. The problem is, here, I'll pull up the exact problem. Let's see how quickly I can pull this up. Here's the problem. Making sure this is all safe for stream. This is the problem. Apple literally puts the word privacy as a billboard, right? What's my Twitch? My Twitch is Reshi Coat, my gamer tag. What did that? I just typed in chat. What did it come up as for you guys? Did it like come up that like I sent it? It's like saying Restream IO on my side. I don't know if it like looks like I actually typed it. It's kind of interesting. This is the problem. This is why came up as you saying in the Twitch. Okay, cool. So Apple deciding, hey, we're going to do a bunch of stuff on the server and not on device. A bit of an identity crisis, right? What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. The size of a building, right? At CES, this looks like in Vegas, I guess. Kind of looks like Austin, honestly. Like that hotel looks familiar. Privacy is king. That's iPhone, right? What happens on your phone stays on your phone. This is the issue. So them deciding, hey, we're going to do a whole bunch of the compute. Instead of doing it on your iPhone, we're going to do it on the server. Bit of an identity thing, right? What's up, Kilo? Let's go. So, like, how do they do that? How do they like get over that identity crisis? They came up with one of the craziest bits of architecture ever. I am too dumb to explain this well. I kind of understand it. I'm too dumb to translate it. I think teaching really shows like true understanding, the ability to teach something. And I think I'm pretty good at teaching a lot of different concepts, especially like when it comes to AppSec or secure coding. When you get down to like the low levels of encryption and like really low level hardware stuff, you start to lose me. I'm just gonna be honest, right? But like what they did to make sure that this like computation experience on their cloud stuff with enforceable guarantees, security and privacy guarantees to the user that they could publish, right? To say, yeah, you're sending a lot of your workloads over here now, even though we have a giant billboard that says what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. They did basically everything they could do. They performed crazy unnatural acts to make sure that the workloads that you sent to their servers were dedicated to you, that other users would never ever be able to access that. So if there was some vulnerability, that it would stay. This is the biggest thing, right? When it comes to cloud computing, when the I don't even care about the theoretical Amazon malicious insider. That's not even okay, cool. Then we're all screwed, right? If Amazon's got a malicious insider walking around a data center or something like that, that's like a very, very different threat model than I personally am worried about. What I'm worried about is the 3-letter agency that shows up and hands them a piece of paper because, I don't know, I tweeted something they didn't like, and they want everything I've ever done on that platform. I want the stuff that I'm working on to be able to say, we can't, here's all the information we have on them. And that's where this starts to shine, right? Is in this confidential compute thing. So like I said, I'm a little bit too dumb to go through it, but Moxie is now using those same architectural principles to bring that to an AI chatbot experience, right? So he makes the point, LLMs are fundamentally stateless, input in, output out, which makes them ideal for a private experience. But that's not when you're that. Yes, that's true for LLMs as a technological concept, but it's not true for I'm using chatgpt.com, right? That's a completely different thing because there's a middle layer between you and the LLM, and it's a whole bunch of OpenAI servers doing stuff and, soon to be advertising to you, right? So they're saying, LLM's fundamentally stateless. So for Confer, we run an inference inside a confidential VM. So your prompts are encrypted from your device directly into the trusted execution environment, which is this whole thing that Apple helped pioneer using these noise pipes. They're processed there and responses are encrypted back. The host never sees plain text. This raises an obvious concern. Even if we have encrypted pipes in and out of an encrypted environment, it really matters what is running inside of that environment. So I made a short video about this, and a lot of people were like, why are you doing an ad, or you're a sellout or whatever? I'm not doing an ad. This is revolutionary security and privacy stuff in the AI space now. Of course, I'm going to talk about it, right? But in 90 seconds, really hard to get to this part when I'm queuing it up. So this is why I'm probably going to record a long video here in a second. So you guys might get a little bit of a double on this, but I'm just kind of talking it out and figuring out what are the most important points. So the confidential computing solves this with remote attestation. When a confidential VM boots, the hardware generates a signed quote, a cryptographic statement containing the hashes of the kernel, initRD, and command line. These hashes are called measurements, and they uniquely identify the code running inside the TEE. So for Confer, we extend the measurement to cover the entire root file system. This builds a Merkle tree over every byte of the file system and embeds the Merkle root hash in the kernel command line. See, I'm saying words I don't know a lot about right now, just being super transparent. This is much lower level than I've gotten in my career. I kind of understand the code signing concept. I couldn't explain to you what a Merkle tree is, right? But I get that they're basically hashing what is installed and running in this VM, and then being able through, some pretty sophisticated means, publish that transparently to the user to be able to infer trust of what's running on. So since the command line is measured, any change to any file, it changes the attestation. The measurement now covers everything, right? So this becomes a completely immutable cloud VM that you're talking to, right? Pretty insane. So, but I haven't even gotten to the coolest part of this yet is how they're doing this. What he did a really, really unique and interesting trick that Moxie pulled off to actually do this. So, make the attestation verifiable and then connect the Confer conversation that's encrypted end to end to this VM that's dedicated to you that then he or a 3-letter agency would not be able to have access to. So your client verifies the quote signature, confirming it came from the genuine trusted environment hardware. checks that the public key in the quote matches the one used in the handshake that binds the encrypted channel to the trusted environment, preventing interception or replay by anything outside of it. So it's making sure that you're talking to the VM that you think you're talking to, and no one else's VM, and that nothing has tampered or happened along the way. Otherwise, this would mathematically change this hash, which, I mean, this is just super, super, super cool stuff, right? Once the verification succeeds, the handshake completes, your client now has cryptographic assurance that it's talking directly to verified code running in hardware enforced isolation. Galaxy brain explode. Holy shit. So I have some questions about the model, right? Like if he's not then passing it to OpenAI's or Anthropic's models, like it's kind of like, well, what's the experience going to be? I kicked the tires with Confer a little bit, not like enough to be like, oh, is this good? But I don't think that it can replace, ChatGPT for most like people's usability expectations anymore, right? There's a whole lot of tools that are now built into the popular AI environment when it comes to internet access. People are using it instead of Google, right? I don't think you can use Confer instead of Google because of its architecture. I doubt that you'd be able to get the same experience that you're used to already. But the coolest freaking thing that they did is this: how they generate the cryptographic material to do everything that I just explained. So we want private AI chat to be simple, yet many end-to-end encrypted experiences still have a level of friction that make them feel like they're from another era. It usually involves a long seed phrase that people are asked to store securely. So who remembers, if you've ever used Signal or something like that, when you create your account, it generally gives you this screen that most people probably just kind of like blow on by, right? Where it's like, hey, store a bunch of these seeds somewhere securely. Maybe people take a screenshot, forget about it. Maybe some paranoid people write it down and like literally lock it in a file or whatever. But these are the codes that if you ever needed to recover that account, something ever happened to your hardware, you could use these seeds to like re-enter your end-to-end encrypted experience, right? So, but like I said, most people probably ignore this. If I ever got a new phone, I just kind of nuke Signal, right? I'm like, hey, everybody, that Signal is gone. New Signal. I got a new end, right? I've never like tried to move that across to different things, right? But this, not just Signal, but this just like happens in general. So insecure password-based encryption are apps that aren't cross-device and lose your data periodically. Reinstall, browser cache, clear, exactly, right? You guys should know what he's talking about here if you've used a lot of these end-to-end encrypted apps. At the heart of this friction is a simple truth. Cryptography turns data and security problems into key management problems. Oh my gosh. Tattoo this on my forehead when I worked at the banks. If you guys don't know, I used to work for some very large banks, and they give just the most shits about cryptography and key management. Like the most shits. Like I don't give a shit about this anymore, right? I'm just me running my little media brand. I don't care about key management anymore. But the banks, oh man, do they care about key management. I have hairs that are gray that I can trace back directly to whiteboard sessions talking about key management. Bring your own key was like, so a lot of times you're using a cloud EC2 instance, someone spins up something in AWS. There's like this, like, hey, we're going to encrypt, the storage volume that's attached to this, right? Cool. And that's like where most people kind of just like, yeah, okay, cool, it's encrypted, right? When you work for a heavily regulated industry, they go, well, encrypt with what? With what key? And where is that key being stored? And who has access to that key? It's not our key, it's your key. How did you generate it? Where did you store it, right? So there became this whole concept of bring your own key. Hey, you don't trust Amazon? Well, just bring us your own key and we'll encrypt your storage with the key that you give us. But again, they're just storing it there, right? So bring your own key wasn't even enough for a lot of these heavily regulated environments. They had to bring their own HSM. So you had to actually get the cloud providers to install a hardware security module, an HSM, This is the hardware that the key is going to be stored in. I own that. I'm a bank and I want to use Microsoft Azure. Well, in order to do that, I need to physically procure a hardware key storage device, an HSM, and verifiably supply chain understand how that gets delivered to the Azure data center and screwed into the rack. And that thing is going to use Microsoft's power and air conditioning and network connection. But other than that, that's mine. And that's where my keys live. And that particular HSM and where my keys get generated and stored are what is used to encrypt my workloads and my storages, right? That's how much they freaking care about it. They don't know why they care about it either. Ask them to describe it, and each stakeholder will answer differently. Oh, Cuscos. Yeah, sometimes I forget that you also have some big bank scars on you. So I will say the encryption nerds there absolutely understand it. When you're talking about stakeholders, totally, yeah. They might just know about a regulation that they need to worry about or whatever. But the people that are tasked with crypto there design this system that I'm talking about directly with Microsoft, like literally in the room. I got to sit in the room and I was the caveman in that room going, ooga booga, what the hell are you talking about? I have no idea, right? I might as well have been finger painting in the corner while the grown-ups talked about crypto, right? Anyway, so cryptography turns data security problems into key management problems. I think my soapbox about bank life probably just covered why this is like highly, highly accurate, right? Absolutely fair, yeah. So straightforward enough to encrypt something before backing it up to the cloud, but how do you back up the key used for the backup encryption? Yeah, it's turtles all the way down at this point, right? It's like, cool, it's encrypted. Where's the key? Where's the last key? Like, like how many keys down are we worried about, like being able to do the attestation on? Remember insane Cisco 2026 plan for encryption standards? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. You probably have a cool story to tell. All right, so coming back to Confer and key management problem. This is the coolest thing that I think we've learned from Confer so far. Great, end-to-end encrypted AI chat. Cuscos, have you seen this yet? Curious. He's using passkeys. He's using passkeys to generate the cryptographic material that's attached to you and your account to then encrypt your session with Confer. So despite its power, end-to-end encryption has historically been impractical for the web. Web pages are designed to be as ephemeral views, not durable applications. So even once we were able to generate strong encryption keys in the browser, we've lacked a reliable way to keep them securely and seamlessly for ongoing use across devices and sessions. Without any other options, we've been stuck with marginal, often user-hostile solutions, right? Hey, take this screenshot of all these keys. Like, that's what he's talking about. For Confer, we face the same core dilemma. We want users to seamlessly access their chats from any device, including a web browser, while ensuring those chats are end-to-end encrypted. No one else, not even us, can access them. So here's the coolest trick that he pulled off. Passkeys. You guys have probably heard about passkeys over the last couple of months. When they start to, they've been starting to roll out, like Google, for example, is now trying to default to passkeys, get away from passwords. They've started to roll out as more of a two-factor auth alternative, was how they first started to roll out. And it's really comes down to this WebAuthn standard under it. So this is the same hardware. If you guys know about YubiKeys, if you watch any of my stuff, you know about YubiKeys or read any of my stuff. So YubiKeys being a hardware two-factor auth token that you plug into your USB drive and you hit that hardware button for your second factor auth. Instead of getting a text message or typing a code in from an app on your phone or anything like that, you hit the button on the YubiKey. The underlying technology there is this WebAuthn, right? This is this FIDO2 like protocol. It's phish proof, right? So even if you are on the phone with a scammer and they've convinced you that they're your bank, and they can normally social engineer people to be like, hey, pull up your two-factor like app and give me that code. We're seeing that a lot. Or you have like Evil Engine X, where they can actually intercept two-factor codes because they're just proxying the login page. and they can just replay that stuff. I've gotten hit with that exact thing before. Or there was push fatigue, right? You send two-factor pushes to someone's device. Eventually, they're going to hit the green check and let you in. So those were not fish-proof two-factor auth situations. They were better than what we had before it, but the people, scammers found a way around it. YubiKeys are fish-proof. You can't be on the phone with someone and they convince you to push the button on the YubiKey. That gives them nothing. Even if they're using Evil Engine X, even if they're sitting there with your password and your username somewhere else, you pushing the button on the YubiKey doesn't do anything for them. It's hardware tied to that key that's physically sitting in your USB drive. Passkeys use that same technology, but instead of tying it to something you got to keep track of on your keychain or something like that, it ties it to the hardware in your device. So it turns your phone or your computer or your laptop into that hardware-based authentication mechanism is what passkeys are doing, right? So Moxie, being the freaking brilliant guy that he is instead of using passkeys just to log you in as a second factor, or we're starting to even see people use it as the first factor. Google is trying to move away from passwords and trying to push you to a passkey first authentication experience, right? So instead of using a password, hey, go verify your passkey, it's just click log in. We recognize this hardware. We recognize that passkey. Here you go. Here's your Google account, right? It's an interesting situation there, which I understand, right? Because your threat model completely changes because if people have local access to your hardware anyway, you're toast. Who cares about first factor, second factor? They've got local access, right? But so instead of using passkeys just for auth, Moxie at Confer is using it to generate cryptographic material to then use in an end-to-end encrypted environment instead of giving you all those seed things that you got to then copy, which you don't, right? So WebAuthn standard allows websites to authenticate users by proving possession of a private key. A user visits a site, generates a key pair, registers the public key with the website, subsequently authenticates by proving possession of the private key, signing a challenge. This is the passkey technology that I just went through. On modern platforms, this happens fairly seamlessly, leveraging built-in security features like Face or Touch ID for key storage and authentication, right? So you can tie it even to biometrics. Incidentally, this means modern browsers and devices provide a mechanism to, drumroll please, Moxie the genius, generate a per-service key pair, store that key securely on the device, authenticate access via biometrics, synchronize the key across a user's devices using secure platform-specific mechanisms, and extend access to native applications via app-site association, which sounds useful. By the way, my daughter mixes up useful and useless all the time. It's really cute. If we have a persistent, biometrically protected cross-device key, what if we could use it to do arbitrary cryptography rather than just authentication? No one's talking about this. Confer is cool because it's like ChatGPT but private, and Moxie put it out. But this is the holy crap, right? As it turns out, we can. The WebAuthn PRF extension, while still relatively new, is now beginning to see fairly wide support. So in browsers, right? So modern Mac, modern iOS, modern Android, Windows doesn't have it natively, but if you have a password manager, you can do it. Same with Linux, right? But the rest of these browsers, Chrome, Safari, and Firefox on modern operating systems are starting to have the ability to do this. So it has browser support in the most recent versions of Chrome, Safari, and Firefox, and platform support in the most recent versions of Mac, iOS, and Android. Still is not built into Windows. So you need a password manager to be installed, which you should all have installed anyway, especially if you're using Windows. Even if it isn't fully supported on every platform right now, it does look like where the puck is going. This extension to passkeys allows a client to derive PRF output, a 32-bit byte secret from the underlying private key. This output is deterministically derived from the long-term key associated with the website, which means it's durable. This is how the UX looks in Confer. So you go to Confer. I think this is Safari. He doesn't have an app, right? So I think this is Safari. Welcome back. Unlock. Sign into Confer with your passkey. Face ID scans. Done. With a single tap and Face ID or Touch ID on any authorized device, the client has durable key material that is much better user experience than being shown 12 random words told to write down and store securely. Who the hell is going to do that, right? And in code, it looks like this. I guess we can look at this really quick. So we have an assertion. We're going to await navigator credentials, get public key challenge, allow credentials, user verification is required, and then this is the PRF extension. And this assertion as public key credential. Listen, I'm not the crypto expert to like opine on this, but this does not look that complicated to do the level of holy shit security that we just showcased, right? From here, we have root key material that we can derive subkeys from and encrypt, decrypt entirely on the client. The root key material is derived from your passkey secret, which we, the provider, never have access to. It's your passkey. It's on your hardware. This means you can conveniently access your confer chats and data from any of your devices in a way that feels as seamless as logging into a website while we remain completely unable to access your data. Guys, like, am I overreacting? I think I'm underreacting. I think everyone's underreacting at what he just proved. I think that's the future, right? So what is stopping any SaaS apps from doing this? A, moving to passkeys for an authentication experience, but B, moving to passkeys to generate cryptographic material that is biometrically tied to you and your device to provide you a secure and private session that even the company can't access that cryptographic material for, to be able to like hang out in their app. Like imagine Salesforce had this. We wouldn't have had this whole SalesLoft drift thing just happen where a bunch of OAuth tokens just gave people keys to the kingdom. We are hanging our hat as an internet on OAuth to just gate everything. And what Moxie just proved, I mean, not like this is like super easy to retrofit on massive SaaS apps like Salesforce. But could you imagine? Someone tell me that I'm stupid and I'm missing the point. I don't think I am. This is nuts. Yeah, look at my good camera. If I get closer, I'm too ugly to be this close in 4K, but like my background gets all blurry and shit. Man, new hardware. Anyway, I don't know. Kuskus or Lee, super curious if you guys have like seen this stuff or had thoughts about it. All right. I didn't record that. I should have. We're going to test. My editor said he can do it off of the VOD. We're going to test to see if that's true. What else do we want to chat about? Let's pull the newsletter back up. All right. Bone to pick with Streamlabs. Kind of annoying. When I switch scenes, as you guys just saw, I switched from like main camera to like browser, the little chat resets. So like a bunch of you guys chatted and it was on screen. Then I switched screens and it's gone. It's kind of annoying. I wonder if there's like a way to change that. All right. What else we got? All right. This one was like kind of an obvious one, right? And like surprising this didn't happen already, right? Like Beijing tells Chinese firms to stop using US and Israeli cybersecurity software. Like, how is this new and just happening? We in the US obviously have made it a very loud point to not let certain Chinese technologies into certain aspects of US critical infrastructure, famously Huawei and our 5G rollout, right? Which apparently, you know, Canada went with Huawei hardware on their towers. We blocked it, right? We said, no, that's too critical infrastructure for like all the company's data, all the country's data to be running on Chinese hardware. So it seems like China has now officially kind of made it the stance to say, hey, same U.S. and Israeli companies, specifically calling out Palo Alto Networks, CrowdStrike, VMware, and Checkpoint. Beijing is like telling their companies in their country to move away from it, right? So I wrote this on Friday. This move fits into China's broader push to replace Western tech with homegrown alternatives. It's happening just as Trump is apparently preparing to visit Beijing in April. Whew, that's going to be fun. Some of the banned companies like CrowdStrike say they don't even do business in China anyway, but Fortinet and Palo Alto have significant operations there with multiple offices. That's weird and spicy, right? It's like you have employees, you have Chinese citizens that are employees of these local offices that are going to be like out of work, right? I don't know. It seems very tit for tat for me, right? Look at Huawei. I've also heard, stories. I can't go into details because I can't like confirm a lot of this stuff, but like people I know that work in, startups in security in the US have had some pretty scary visits from three-letter agencies that, aren't the ones you've heard of, that have kind of strong-armed them into like, hey, we need all the information that you have on, such and such investor or company. So obviously we're doing our own versions of this. All right. I don't know. That one was kind of like duh. But the one part I did want to point out that I didn't realize, honestly, I don't know if this was obvious and I didn't realize it or what, but that like, hey, a lot of these companies actually have local offices with employees of the citizens. That's kind of wild. This one was really cool and interesting. This is a New York Times article. Can I bring up an archived article on stream without getting in trouble? Am I a pirate? I got to get rid of my UTM in order to do it. New York Times, I love you. I pay for your games. I don't pay for your news. I'm not a robot. Oh, God. I'm doing this live. How many times do you guys fail these things? I fail these things all the time. See? All right. So this one was interesting to me because it's talking about, like, when I posted this, a lot of people were like, isn't this already happening? And I guess not, right? I guess to the degree that we're talking about, it's not happening. It's talking about the US government using private employees, private companies in offensive cyber war operations, right? So like, obviously, yeah, like the government's going to be able to tap the private sector and contractors to do support roles. They obviously use private companies as vendors, right? Like they're going to use the CrowdStrikes of the world. They're going to use, Amazon as a whole cloud for the government, right? But what they're talking about here was almost, they use the word, letters of marque. Who knows what letters of marque are? Like, it's an old pirate term. Let's bring up the wiki. Sorry, I'm like paranoid of sharing my screen on stream. So letters of marque is what they're kind of drawing the parallel to. So this was a government license in the age of sail that authorized a private person known as a privateer or a corsair to attack and capture vessels of a foreign state at war with the issuer, licensing international military operations against specified enemy as reprisal for a previous attack or injury. Captured naval prizes were judged before the government's Admiralty Court for condemnation and transfer of ownership to the privateer. Common practice among Europeans from the late Middle Ages to the 19th century. Cruising for enemy prizes with letter of marque was considered an honorable calling that combined patriotism and profit. Oh, man. Chocolate and peanut butter. Such legally authorized privateering contrasted with unlicensed captures of random ships known as piracy, which was universally condemned. In practice, the differences between privateers and pirates were sometimes slight. A matter of interpretation. Gosh, I love Wikipedia editors sometimes. The terms letter of marque and privateer were sometimes used to describe the ships that were typically operated under the marque and reprisal licenses. In this context, the letter of marque was a lumbering square rate. Well, okay, we're getting too detailed, but this is what this is what people are drawing the parallel to. Someone just called me a bot. Yeah, you watched me fail to pick a bridge live on stream. I'm a bot. All right, so they're considering, and I have a hard time not bringing up all the cuts to cybersecurity budgets that have been going on. I know I'm not under the illusion that CISA, I used to call it CISA, and then I made a bunch of videos calling it CISA, and employees of CISA wound up in my DM telling me I was saying it wrong. But I say CISO. When I say CISO, I say CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. So I went CISA. It's almost like the Spanish feminine of CISO. But no, apparently it's CISA. So I know that CISA wasn't running offensive cybersecurity operations. CISA was not like the cyber warfare department. So every time I talk a lot about, either a government agency being hacked, like we saw some congressional staffers get hacked by China recently. People in my comments are like, oh, and they cut all the budgets to CISA. That wasn't CISA's day job. CISA was not the Chief Information Security Office of the government, right? CISA offered a service to the country, one of the main parts being this like known exploited vulnerabilities things. They would send warnings out to, notification systems out to like critical infrastructure companies and things like that to say, hey, you got to watch out for this vulnerability. CISA was not like running cyber war or cyber defense for government agencies, right? Each agency is responsible for their own security. CISA was a resource they could use, right? So I'm not under that illusion, but it's still really hard to not draw the parallel to shit going down and the budget's being cut, right? I think that's fair to say that like, hey, it seems like on the whole, the government is taking cybersecurity less seriously because of the budget cuts and news, right? So like, I get it. I also have this compulsion, even though, if you're watching from CISA, I know that it wasn't your job. I know it wasn't your former coworkers who got laid off or left job. But okay, that's like the backdrop of this, that like, hey, we're going to do cyber war stuff. And by the way, we cut a bunch of the budget. That's kind of weird. All right. So they're talking about enlisting private companies to assist with offensive cyber attacks, according to some senior U.S. officials. The proposals have been included in drafts of the administration's coming national cybersecurity strategy. I will be very excited to read this when it comes out, which will set out the general priorities and be accompanied by a plan to carry out the policies, said the former officials who spoke on the condition of anonymous sources. Got it. The government can currently contract private companies to develop elements of its cyber operations, but this initiative would drastically expand the role of private companies in cyber warfare, raising a host of questions about the legality and practicality of their involvement. This is the big difference, right? So a lot of people were like, hey, aren't we doing this? Apparently not this like offensive stuff, right? Apparently the offensive stuff really comes down to like, you're already working for the agency. You're not working for Rapid7 hacking like other nation states, right? It would be a more aggressive approach that is likely to be subject of a confirmation hearing. Got it. Under the law, private companies are prohibited from conducting offensive campaigns online, which can range from the breach that paralyzed Britain's largest car maker. Oh yeah. What was that? That was the Jaguar Land Rover, right? JLR or something like that. That like made a real dent on their entire economy. Isn't that crazy? That a car maker being offline moved the needle enough that they had to like inject money into, they had to like bail out the economy because of a hack. We could talk about that more if we want. To persistent assaults targeting an opponent, like Russia's reported attacks on Ukraine. Yeah, the Russia-Ukraine stuff has been an interesting like canary in the coal mine for anyone like looking at warfare just in general. Like to be able to like watch this stuff and see how modern warfare is going to balance between kinetic and cyber stuff really, really interesting. It's why I covered a bunch in my newsletter. It might feel repetitive, but it's a relatively small conflict. I use that term very sensitively. Obviously, it's major conflict for that region. Obviously, a lot of people are impacted. I'm just saying in like the scope of like massive conflicts, it's kind of like a back and forth on their one border. But it's really, really interesting as a study, right? If you're going to like zoom out and look at what's going on over there for like what might come if, China goes into Taiwan, if US and Russia go to blows over Greenland, if any of like the bigger powers, come to bigger blows, the stuff going on in Russia, Ukraine is kind of like a good litmus test to what might go on at a larger scale, right? I'm thinking things like a lot of these like the drone attacks, but they're not like the big UAVs dropping bombs. They're like flying the little drones with explosives on them into things. That's like a new technique that we hadn't seen before. And then obviously the balance between the cyber stuff and the kinetic stuff is good to keep an eye on, right? If you're, a US cyber nerd like I am. So changing the law to permit private companies to execute offensive cyber attacks would require congressional approval. We already talked about that. New York Times. Some lawmakers have called for private companies to be allowed to hack back. This is like a misuse of this term, in my opinion. If we're talking about cyber war and like literally going on the offensive, this isn't like, hack back. Hack back is like you're a company who like get ransomware and like you hack that cyber criminal back to like get your stuff back. Is this a regular live series? I have been going on and off live on YouTube for a few months. This is my official launch. Yes, I'm committing to going live multiple times a week now. This is now a live series. I've set up my studio in a way that I will be going live more. Thanks for being here, Hartha. But yeah, I'm thinking Tuesday, Thursday mornings between like 8 a.m. my time and lunch my time, loosely. I also have Wednesday blocked off. If this like takes off and I'm vibing, I might do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings. We'll see. Friday mornings are off limits, and I don't think I'll do Mondays. I've got a lot of meetings on Mondays, but yeah, I'm going to be live for at least another hour and a half right now. All right. I don't like hack back. I don't like the term hack back here. While others have suggested repurposing letters of marque for cyberspace. That's what I was just talking about. So basically, people are saying that the government might be able to put out basically a license saying this target, fully legal, go ahead, and you can claim a reward if you're successful, is what that would look like. That sounds like something Trump would vibe with, I don't know much about how that guy's rotting brain works, but or the worms in his advisors' brains works, but that sounds like something that they would vibe with, right? I don't know. Last authorized during the Civil War, letter of marque is constitutional provision allows private citizens to seize enemy ships. Okay, interesting. Measures raise the specter of U.S.-approved piracy in cyberspace. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. If you just have companies out there hacking back, what you end up with is potential chaos. So this is an interesting like counterpoint. Everything right now that we've covered, it like sounds like cowboys and yeehaw and pirates, and it sounds kind of like cool and interesting. But really good counterpoint coming up in this article says if you just like kind of let it rip and let whoever rip, who knows what kind of untrained stuff you're going to get. Without oversight, you're going to have actions that take place by private companies against nation states that believe that was a formal position of the United States, right? So you're going to have penetration testing firms throwing resources at hacking nation states, and the nation states are going to see that as a sanctioned activity from the US no matter what happens. And now you could see escalation and potentially even kinetic conflict come of that. You're going to see chaos. So yes, this is a really, really good point. Would we have blowback in terms of kinetic actual responses to, the pen tester that posts a lot on LinkedIn found a server, poked a little too hard thinking that they were going to get some sort of reward. The bug bounty hunter that posts on Twitter about all their bugs that they collect could potentially start kinetic conflict if they, tip over the wrong thing, right? Say they find a box, they think that they're going to collect a reward, and all of a sudden the water is shut off to a major region of Russia. You see? That would be super interesting, right? So having private companies answer to Cyber Command would ward against that. Saying, okay, so it's not just willy-nilly letters of marque, but you're tapping into private companies as a contractor to Cyber Command. So without changing the law that prohibits private companies from engaging in offensive, there are several ways that private sector teams could supplement traditional military and intelligence forces. The military could embed a uniformed cyber operator in a private company to be the one who actually executes the cyber attack. Or a private company under virtual oversight could write code for an operation and then hand it over to Cyber Command. Okay, right? So I guess they're saying, they're going to send an adult in the room, to a contracted situation who's going to be the ops lead for a mission, I guess. You're just blurring the lines here, right? You're just super blurring the lines between people with top secret clearance who work in the environment versus not. The one thing that I guess I'll say here that's interesting to me is the government can't pay enough. The government can't pay enough to attract the top levels of talent, period. They also have all sorts of weird, you got to go through a lie detector. They still ask you if you've ever smoked weed, which is legal in 20 something states, right? Right? And they still, if you want to go work for the FBI, strap you to a lie detector and ask you if you've ever smoked weed for $110,000 a year. Why, if you have the skills to do this level of cyber operation, would you voluntarily put yourself through that kind of stuff versus, go make double that at a Silicon Valley company where you can show up in shorts and work from home or whatever the hell it is, right? They have a hard time, right? You got to find, I think most people I know that work in these kinds of roles are ex-military or hyper patriotic and have always wanted to work for the FBI or something like that, or the Secret Service. The Secret Service has a huge cyber operation, by the way, if you didn't know. Most people know of Secret Service as the guy with the earpiece behind the president with a fake arm while he's holding a gun under his jacket. But the Secret Service has a huge cyber operation. They do a ton of if you read a lot about these carding takedowns, they've busted someone with all these SIM cards, or they busted someone with all these fake credit cards, stolen credit cards. A lot of time that's the Secret Service. That big SIM farm New York City story I covered, I have a YouTube video about it. That was the Secret Service that did that. So anyway, I can see it based on that, right? That's why the FBI always needs outside help. Yeah, they already have channels for partnership, but this is taking it to a different degree, right? This is taking it to the offensive cyber operations, not an Intel partnership, not a tool vendor, right? This is getting into us being a nation state sanctioned maybe spyware creator, right? A lot of that stuff that's going on right now is developed by private companies external to the US, right? A lot of Israeli companies are developing the spyware that ICE is using right now, for example. Even the NSA, most is horrible. It's in the 1%. It is the 1% of it no one talks about that does all the serious work. Yeah, I agree. I mean, not to crap on people that I know that I've met some very talented people at the FBI at legit cyber intel conferences and things like that. So they do have talent. That being said, they severely limit their talent pool. So this would open it up, right? So you could have your cake and eat it too here, right? You can go work for whatever company you want and potentially catch contracts from the government to do this kind of stuff. So you'd kind of like make that money, that private sector money, while potentially being able to kind of tap into the public sector stuff. I don't know. This is interesting. The demand, let's read the rest of this. The demand signal is too large, the threat landscape too dynamic, and the technical talent pool too competitive. What did I just say? For the department to meet future requirements with government personnel alone. Turning to the private sector would allow for a very rapid increase in scale, which would result in more cyber attacks. This could in turn throw sand into the gears of enemy cyber operations and position the United States for potential wartime actions. He added, but whatever the role of private companies, it will still signal a significant shift in U.S. military's long history of teaming up with private sector. As a general rule, you don't have your private sector defense industrial-based companies sitting side by side with operators conducting offensive operations. This is all super interesting. I don't really know. I think it's inevitable. I think everyone who read this was surprised it wasn't happening already, which means it's going to happen, right? If everyone thought it was going to happen, or it was already happening, it's going to happen. They don't have the PR hit from this. This will get confirmed, right? Our 2 or 3 talented friends can't manage the entire. Yeah, I agree, Nightcray. What up, Bill? Cause and effect. Everyone say hi to Bill. He's helping out Voln U. Thanks for coming to hang out. Bill's a cyber OG in this space. All right, so Iran's internet. I think the last that I heard is it's back online, right? Did I read that this morning? Iran internet. We're going to search on X real quick. NetBlocks. NetBlocks was who I was talking to. No, 9 hours ago, the last they tweeted, Iran's internet blackout is now past hour 280. The nation of over 90 million remains cut off for another day, leaving friends and family unable to check in with loved ones. This was... Oh, someone... So I saw something. It looks like someone cropped and like manipulated something to show like a little blip that they were coming online. So NetBlock says, ask the person who cropped and manipulated the 2 charts. I'm going to put this on screen real quick. So NetBlocks is like one of these internet freedom watcher, agent, not agencies, but organizations. They're the ones talking about this shutdown. This person said, asking where this went. I think I saw this too. I think I saw some news. And they said, ask the person who cropped and manipulated the 2 charts in your tweet, removing the description of what each of the 2 charts represents, right? There's been minimal access to the outside world, with connectivity in recent days restored only for some domestic websites. Google also began partially functioning as a search engine, with most search results inaccessible. So this is still like their general connectivity percentage. I guess some Google stuff came back online. That's why I thought that I heard that they came back online, but no, they did not. So this is like just a massively hot topic to focus on. I don't think it's getting enough coverage, really. The lens that I like to talk about this stuff through is I make a lot of videos about government overreach when it comes to encryption. You get a lot of the government wants to, it comes to the floor of Congress a lot, where they need a backdoor for only the good guys. We just need a key for the good guys to be able to read all that encrypted stuff that you guys have to save the children. There's people abusing children, so we need access to everyone's everything to catch those people. To which I say, buzz off. The people abusing children are not very good at hiding, and you're not catching them already, right? How many times do violent acts happen where people publicly post their manifestos and live stream the video of everything going on and it doesn't get stopped? The access to the information doesn't matter, right? And you get like this whole Save the Children debate. It's all funded by like weird dark money things. So when you hear people like pulling on your emotional heartstrings to give over some of your rights to privacy because of some then right hand, promise of some additional security, just, know that they're trying to pull one over for you. And this is the kind of stuff I point to when I say that as they chip away at the control over a free internet and private access to your own information and communications, this is the kind of stuff that goes on, right? There's like that meme, that viral sound that says, when somebody says the government would never do that, yes, they would. This is what's going on, right? Is you get these like chips away at our control over it, and then you get a government that can shut off the whole country's access to the internet when there is kind of an uprising, there is an uprising against the government due to, its authoritarian ways, and hyperinflation is usually the tipping point, and that's what happened here. And then the internet gets shut off. People can't talk to their families. And most importantly to them, they can't coordinate their uprising efforts. And the rest of the world can't see the kind of stuff that's going on. In this case, probably killing a lot of the protesters from the government, right? We don't get the HD video that we're getting out of, Minneapolis, say, this week. We don't get that because the internet shut off in Iran. So that's the lens that I want to look at this through. Europe is like crazy on this right now. The UK specifically just has tons of these bills that are just like chipping away at like a free internet. And this is the kind of stuff that, I just want to like warn people about. All right. Anyone else that got my newsletter want to talk about anything from last week? If not, I'm probably going to shift to looking forward, or looking at any news that came up in the last 2 days. If you guys didn't see, Microsoft disrupted like a pretty interesting cybercrime operation called Red VDS. Think of this like cyber criminals AWS. You could get like virtual desktops that were preloaded, like ready to go, turnkey cybercrime environments. It was like a really, really like interesting SaaS tool that was just like ready to go, right? I even called it turnkey when I wrote it last week, right? Enterprise SaaS levels of features, but for crime. Customers paid in crypto, got full admin access. Servers came loaded with everything a scammer could want. Mailers, email harvesters, VPN clients, AI tools like ChatGPT without the guardrails so that they could write convincing phishing emails, all sorts of stuff preloaded. Microsoft took it down. Microsoft tracked multiple threat actors using this infrastructure. Their DNS setup was crazy. Part of what made them like interesting was what like actually was part of their downfall that was able to have Microsoft track them down and disrupt this whole operation. This bootloader stuff was about as low level as I got in the newsletter last week. There was some malformed like zip files that were loading this bootloader malware. So they would concatenate like 1,000 zip files together, which would just be like a mess and like look corrupted, but 7-zip and WinRAR would actually would choke on them, but Windows built-in unarchiver handled them fine. So even though they like looked like corrupted zip files, Windows would open them and then it would be malware. But because like the files were different every time, your like traditional hash-based malware detection would just completely miss this stuff. So you need like some actual Yara rules that could like look at the kind of stuff that they're doing to get this through to actually catch this. And then I always end with some memes. If anyone gets the newsletter and you like my memes at the end. Man yelling in excruciating pain in the background. No updates from my end. That just gave me a funny zoom. Then got a buddy who's praying for World War III so he can win $390 on Polymarket. Oh gosh. Okay. So let's pull up. I'm going to pull up my news feeds to see what else is going on. If you're in chat, sound off. Chat's kind of quiet. I don't mind. I'll yap, but sound off if you haven't already, because I think I've got a bunch of viewers that haven't spoke yet. You don't have to. You can lurk, but say hi. Let me know if you watch my stuff or if you're new here, you just kind of stumbled across me. Most are totally disconnected from the current depopulation agenda. I don't know. I'm not sure I know what you mean. Okay, so I'm pulling up today's news. Let's see what we got. We got Anthropic MCP Git servers enable file access and code execution. So we've got some MCP vulns. UK launches landmark report fraud service to tackle cybercrime. Whatever. CrowdStrike shareholder loses battle to recoup losses from the outage. I don't care. CrowdStrike, of course, is still in court from when they took down like everything. What do we got? Hackers use LinkedIn messages to spread a rat malware through DLL sideloading. It's kind of interesting. How are they using LinkedIn messages? Let's pull that on screen so you guys can see what I'm reading. Open source Python script drives social media phishing campaign. I'm reading this live. I haven't read this yet, so just FYI. Live React. We investigated the phishing campaign, exploited social media private messages to deliver weaponized files via DLL sideloading. This seems like pretty complex to be able to pull off through a LinkedIn messages. That's kind of why I'm looking at it. Unless the LinkedIn message is just like the social engineering to like then download something, right? Phishing campaign exploits social media private messages, deliver malicious payloads. Let's see. Anatomy of the attack, initial access. The attack began with the phishing messages sent via LinkedIn containing a link to download a malicious WinRAR self-extracting archive. Once executed, the archive extracts a legitimate open source PDF reader, a malicious DLL file disguised to share the same name as a benign file used by the PDF reader, a portable executable of a Python interpreter, and a RAR file likely acting as a decoy. Interesting. And then C2 drops the Python interpreter into the system, creates a persistent registry run key with embedded Python code, ensuring the interpreter runs automatically. What's the C2 though? During our analysis showed frequent attempts to contact a C2 server, behavior commonly associated with rats indicate, just a server. So they're not doing any like creative C2. I want to see it. Show me it. You don't show me it? I wanted to see a message. Oh man, this got picked up by the news too, and in the news article, I don't see a message either. Darn. I was hoping for a screenshot of some of the social engineering or of like the files. There's not a lot of information to cover on that one. Yeah, Bill, sure. Buddy messages you, hey, do you know how I get the file for this video inside the RAR I extracted? Yeah. Yeah, that's why I wanted to see the actual social engineering, right? Because like it's interesting when that stuff actually goes down. All right. What else we got? AI frameworks flaws put enterprise clouds at risk? No. Evelyn Stealer malware abuses VS Code extensions to steal developer credentials. Yeah, this stuff, I talk about pretty much every one of these that I find because this is just a nasty, nasty world that is going to get worse before it gets better. If you guys have watched any of my YouTube videos, I talk a fair bit about extension security, mostly browser extensions, but VS Code extensions are like right up there. This is like the Wild West right now, right? So an in-depth analysis of the Evelyn Stealer campaign targeting software developers. A lot of this stuff is coming out of Koi, which I don't know how I feel about Koi just in general. Don't need to get into it, but they are putting out a fair bit of research about malicious extensions that they're finding. There's some questionable stuff coming out of them, but they have found some legit malicious extensions going on. So it looks like Trend Micro took that Koi finding and then is doing a more in-depth analysis, which I like. So Evelyn is a VS Code extension implements multiple anti-analysis techniques to evade detection in research and sandbox environments. So it tries to detect if a smart security researcher is the one loading it up. Collect system information, harvest browser credentials through DLL injection. Wow, DLL injection is the attack of the day, it seems. All right, so upon successfully installing this VS Code extension, the downloader pretends to be a legitimate Lightshot DLL component, which is then executed by the genuine lightshot.exe. I don't know what Lightshot is. Is that the extension? No. It downloads this other thing. I don't know what Lightshot is. Does anyone know what Lightshot is? Upon loading, the DLL immediately executes its payload. The malware implements a legitimate-looking Lightshot function, exports to maintain its cover, and implements a singleton pattern, PowerShell command, bada, bada, bada. Additionally, the downloader creates a mutual exclusion object to ensure that only one instance of the malware can run on any given time. So we've been seeing this. A lot of malware, especially in extensions, is trying to detect other malware. It's trying to make sure that it's actually the first and only malware doing what it's doing on that machine, ensuring that multiple instances of the malware cannot be executed. Download request sent by the downloader. I know you.model. Second stage of the payload of this malware campaign is a process hollowing injector designed to decrypt and inject a third stage payload into the legitimate Windows process. The malware uses AES-256, CBC cipher encryption to decrypt the final payload, which is this Evelyn Stealer. Interesting. I like reading this stuff. I don't know about you guys. If you like going this deep, I like to understand some of these little slight differences that we're seeing in malware pop up, like this multi-stage thing versus just straight up downloading this Evelyn Stealer. Is good to kind of keep track of, right? Upon execution, the malware dynamically resolves all Windows APIs needed for the malware operations. This is the part I wanted to. The malware employs multiple layers of evasion techniques. This is the stuff that's always super interesting to me. Specifically designed to thwart security researchers. This is so crazy, right? Because like obviously all the researchers do this kind of stuff, right? We make videos, we do write-ups, so the malware authors can watch this. You could be sitting in here right now. And so they know like how we rip this stuff apart. And so they're like, all right, detect if automated analysis systems, sandbox environments. The malware implements different virtual machine detection methods, debugger detection, and specialized checks for analysis environments like remote desktop RDP sessions and Hyper-V. The anti-VM, anti-sandbox techniques is GPU analysis, so it detects VMware, VirtualBox, Hyper-V, Parallels, QEMU, VirtIO, and basic display adapters. Hostname analysis checks the computer name for VM indicators. Disk size analysis flags systems with less than 60 gigabytes, because that's like rare these days for your actual machine. But VMs, you might just give like a gig to spin it up. Process analysis scans for VM related processes. Registry analysis checks hardware registry keys for VM identifiers and a relatively sophisticated evasion technique to avoid analysis. Yeah, that's nasty. So if it detects it, that's what I want to know what it does. So after successful initialization and environment validation, the malware establishes operational workspace by creating... No. I want to know what happens if it... So this is like continuing with the malware, which is cool, right? Okay. How does it do all the data collection and get all the creds out of your browser and stuff? The malware then implements a sophisticated multi-tier strategy for acquiring its critical browser injection component. So to extract browser credentials, got it. Okay, like, yeah, interesting. But I want to know what it detects, like a security researcher, what it does. Once the malware acquires that, the malware targets browsers. Okay, we already did all this. Malware captures desktop screenshots, Wi-Fi passwords, clipboard data, and cryptocurrency wallets. This is what most of these things are going after, especially if it's a VS Code extension malware. It's really targeting crypto developers. A ton of the VS Code extensions that have been malicious are ones that are specifically VS Code extensions that target like Ethereum smart contract developers. Oh, I got a bot. Cheap viewers. I need mods. Oh, I can just block you. Cool. AI agents, people give permissions to take actions on their behalf. I don't really see anything good coming from it. Yeah, for sure. Maybe a business idea, AI bot, Yeah, no, it's such a good point. So once the malware collects all the necessary information, it archives the data into a zip and sends it to the CNC server. Conclusion. Yeah, darn. Okay. I don't know what it does if it detects a security researcher. It probably just doesn't do any of the following stuff, right? It just kind of does nothing is probably what it does. But that stuff's always super interesting to me. All right, what else we got? We got time for a few more. Anthropic quietly fixed flaws in its Git MCP server that allowed for remote code execution. The more and more I hear about MCP stuff, the more I'm like, we should never use MCP. The like risk to reward ratio is just off, right? When it comes to the MCP stuff. I mean, especially the agents don't even really need it a lot anymore. For the price of Netflix, crooks can now rent AI to run cybercrime. Leave it to the register to like make crazy headlines. It's probably just like a guardrail list. ChatGPT is what I'm guessing that's what that is. What was that? What was that popular one called? Dark GPT or something. There was like a popular hacker GPT that came out. Everyone keeps telling me to use VS Code. I'm fine with CLI and text editor. Yeah, I do use VS Code. I don't use it very many extensions. But if you're good with CLI and text editor, definitely stay there, right? I got a ton of buddies that are like CLI junkies, you know, Vim and NeoVim, and they hate using a mouse. They're like, what's a mouse for? I got a ton of buddies that do that. I don't really mess with that too much. I try. I have Raycast, and I try to like, you know, have as many shortcuts for Raycast as possible. APT grade PDF cider malware used by ransomware groups. It's kind of interesting. What do we got there? Let's find. Let's pull this up on screen for you guys. APT grade. I like that. It's better than sophisticated, right? I hate the word. If you see the word sophisticated in a cybersecurity news article, just replace it with, you know, something else. It's never really that sophisticated. Mouse slows you down. Yeah, I know. My brain just doesn't. I'm just too dumb for like staying in NeoVim land. I try. Muscle memory is hard, right? There's like a learning curve. Even when I create a bunch of Raycast shortcuts, it takes me a bit to like actually implement them all. Hey, just like a really quick sanity check for those of you who've been hanging out. How's like stream quality? Like, I don't know, right? And it's like one thing to check stream quality at like beginning of stream. It's another to check it like 2 hours later, right? Nice stream, man. Like the coverage, relax setting. Time to GTFO and eat. Have a good lunch. I'm gonna grab lunch before I've got some meetings this afternoon from some of my agency clients. Glad you liked it. But yeah, sanity check on stream quality. If this all felt and sounded smooth, sound off. It's 2 hours later. I recorded a local video, all this kind of stuff. Good on your end. Cool. Thanks, Bill. All right, PDF Cider. The threat was designed to deploy a backdoor with encrypted command and control. Newly identified malware family with advanced capabilities being used in targeted attacks, including by ransomware groups. So this is like, it's important to stay up top of this kind of stuff too. Like the nation state stuff is just like one threat model. But if we're getting new malware families being used by cybercrime, sounds good, both on Twitch and YouTube. Thank you so much. Quality fine, tethered to a phone, big parking garage. Sweet. Yeah, this will be available for replay. So YouTube automatically saves VODs of everything. And I did record one segment that I did when I first went live that I've already given to my my editor for to turn a segment into into a YouTube video. But yes, it will. The whole live will be a VOD for sure. Sorry, I was just realizing I never actually DM'd that to my editor. So I recorded one. So like he gets like really good local files. Yeah, Bill, I know what you're asking. That's definitely, and I'll try to make chapters. So Bill, by the way, Bill's going to help like with some of the written content over at Volnew. So he's probably going to use some of this stuff that I'm chatting about into some more like written content. So he's hanging out to like grab little bits and pieces. But I hit record, so I got a local file of like my face and my screen to give to my editor for like one actual good video. I'm hoping to do that a few times as I get like my bearings on me on this live stream thing, so I can like maybe do like half-hour segments during a 3 or 4 hour stream. And then but he also said that he might be able to make videos out of if I like just parts of the stream if I just give him timestamps. So we're gonna see if I like I feel like that local file is gonna make for a higher quality YouTube video at the end of the day, because then he can like move my face around and stuff instead of just getting this part of the output. He said he could do it anyway. I don't know. We'll see. Kilobyte, thanks for hanging out and sounding off about the stream quality. It's super helpful as I get this started. As it's my first week doing it, my calendar is allowing for it. I'll probably do this tomorrow as well. But definitely Tuesday and Thursday mornings is what I'm committing to. I have some travel coming up in February and March, so I'll miss a few weeks in February, March, but we're gonna do this as often as I can while I'm in town. Great stuff. Cool. Thank you for the feedback. All right. So the reason I wanted to focus on this, a lot of my job right now is like combing through the piles and piles of cybersecurity news that come out in a given week. And a lot of it, I just don't care about, right? It's like, oh, some random county in Pennsylvania got compromised and like lost a few dozen, few hundred, few thousand records. We all get breach fatigue, right? But the things that I like to like pull out on, and why, like, just to kind of give you a look behind the eyeballs over here, like this is ransomware groups using a new family of malware is usually like, hey, let's stay on top of this, right? Because this generally winds up turning into trends. If this is successful for some ransomware groups and they're using some new malware that previously was used by an APT, we're going to want to know about this. This is just based off the headline. I haven't even read this story yet, right? But just like giving you a view of like, okay, why does Matt care about this one versus some of the other ones? It's like part of like what I have to do for my newsletter every week is like go through thousands of stories and then like immediately filter out a bunch. It's probably hundreds. I'm probably exaggerating with 1,000, but it's definitely hundreds of stories, and get it down to like a solid 10 or 12 is like what I try to put in my newsletter. And it's like, well, why those? And it's like, well, this is the stuff that we should actually care about, might actually impact our day-to-day life, especially if you work in this field. And I try to not just like do the sensational stuff, because you're going to get that anyway. If you're on Twitter, if you're on whatever, you're going to get the sensational stuff. All right. So PDF Cider sideloaded via the legitimate PDF24 creator app, delivered to victims in a zip archive attached to spearphishing emails. Guys, this is the third malware story of the day. They're all using malicious archives and then some sort of sideloaded DLL. So that's a takeaway for the day, is like we're seeing 3 different groups, 3 different targeted groups, 3 different malware families, all using similar tactics. So if you're a detection engineer who's like wielding Yara all day, you know the kind of stuff that you need to be looking for, right? So multiple ransomware groups are already using it in attacks as payload delivery method. That this cybersecurity firm notes. Multi-stage environment validation routine allows PDF Cider to detect virtual environments. Okay, so this is very similar to the last malware that we just analyzed in terms of its capabilities and DLL sideloading, but a completely different attack, right? So APT and cybercrime both abusing DLL sideloading. China linked APT Mustang Panda. Mustang Panda. These names, I can never get over these names. DLL sideloading a recent campaign targeting U.S. government and policy-related entities in context of the U.S.-Venezuela conflict. Which story is this? Is this the congressional people being hacked? We have information about that now? Targeted espionage leveraging geopolitical themes. Observed targeted malware campaigns against U.S. government entities leveraging politically themed zip archive. No, this isn't that. So what I'm talking about is some congressional staffers that are part of the China policy teams. The staffers, not the actual Congress people's emails got hacked. We didn't get any information about the actual hack. So I thought that maybe this was that. This seems like, no, this is phishing campaigns, spear phishing campaigns using the geopolitical stuff as a lure. But not necessarily those targeted ones. Campaign reflects a continued trend of targeted spear phishing using geopolitical lures, favoring reliable execution. Targeted, limited to U.S. government and policy-related entities. I mean, maybe it's so hard to tie these two stories together if it is that, because they're very vague about it. Let's see. Ooh, but we have pictures. This is what I wanted on the LinkedIn story, right? I wanted pictures. I got them. Maduro to be taken to New York is the name of the file. Our investigation began after identifying a spear phishing archive named U.S. Now Deciding What's Next for Venezuela.zip. It was uploaded for automated malware analysis from an IP address geolocated in the United States. The archive included a legitimate executable and a hidden non-standard DLL, a combination frequently associated with Mustang Panda, and apparently a lot of other people, because we've covered this 3 times today. Execution of the binary resulted in the DLL being loaded through sideloading. Wow, man. This is wild. Basically all malware doing this right now. In the very same directory where the launcher is located, we could previously see only one single file, the implant, which was dynamic loaded, called kugo.dll, was visible. I wanted to see the phishing stuff. The executable launcher named as Maduro to be taken to New York.exe, which is basically a renamed and is a launcher binary for a music streaming service owned by Tencent, explicitly loads the malicious DLL. So they're basically just using any executable that they can that's legitimate, that has the ability to sideload the DLL. In this case, it was a music streaming service, to get their malware into these devices. But their targeted spear phishing campaigns with the geopolitical stuff as the lure is nasty, nasty. Nasty, nasty. We're not going to go into the C on this stream. It's a little too low level for what I'm doing right now. We could probably futz through it, but it's going to take us a long time. Yeah, we're not going to go through all this C analysis of the actual malware. And we can, I mean, we know what's happening, right? Spear phishing, malware, they're stealing information, info stealing out of browser and out of other stuff, right? This is just the how in the C stuff, and then command and control. We don't need to go through all this. And persistence. I mean, we kind of all understand this already, right? Infrastructure artifacts. This gets kind of interesting because this is where you get to attestation, right? Who's doing it? According to our analysis, the implant establishes outbound connections to the CT. It's kind of generic stuff too. Oh, wow. They use port 443. No way. Duh. All right. Email attachment. US now deciding what to do. .zip has Maduro to be taken to New York. .exe. I mean, this is hilarious stuff, right? Like boomer level spear phishing. Yeah, let me run this Maduro to be taken to New York. .exe. Facebook ass malware. Run registry and persistent sideloading, and it connects to C2. Okay, yeah, we kind of covered all this. Totally Facebook ass malware, right? Maduro to be taken to New York.exe. Wait, did you guys see this thing? I was going to make a short about it. Should I make a short while live? You guys want to watch me make a short? Do you care? Let's do it. I'm in D&D, so I just picked up my phone for the first time to see. All right, let's make a short while live. Why is TikTok immediately brings up ads? All right, we're going to go green screen. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. Actually, I'll pull it up on screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. What's it called? Creepy link. Hold on. Let me find it. I'll pull up on screen so you guys can see what I'm laughing about while I'm making the short. Did you guys see this? Where is it? No, I don't want the Reddit thread. I want the damn thing. Yeah, here it is. All right. So someone made a link shortener called Creepy Link. So the whole point of this is to make your links look as suspicious as possible. So like if I put my newsletter in and I say make it creepy, it's like secure ic6.do.com lottery. So it's like a link shortener that makes like the most suspicious possible. Click.link. This is super funny, right? All right. This is what I was going to make a short about today. Because I got a kick out of this. All right. You guys are going to watch me make a short. I'll move my mic a little bit further away. Someone made a link shortener that's entire purpose is to make the shortened link look as suspicious as possible. So if I put my website in here and click make it creepy, I get like secure.click.link/something or verify.web-safe.link. Go mess around with this. Let me know your favorites. I'm just picturing the person that developed this just had to go register a bunch of the shadiest domains possible to put it in here to like you get roulette on like shady links. Sound off. What's like the funniest one you get when you go use this? There you go. There you go. You guys saw how I made a short now.
So if I put my website in here and click make it creepy, I get like secure.click.link/something or verify.web-safe.link. Go mess around with this. Let me know your favorites. I'm just picturing the person that developed this just had to go register a bunch of the shadiest domains possible.
Okay. I won't get paid for it. It's too short. So fun fact about shorts on the companies that do even give me any money for them, they have to be over a minute long in order for me to make any money on them. It's a bad incentive, right? It's like a weird incentive, like to yap too much about a topic. There's not a lot to talk about with this. So I'm just going to make this like super short because like whatever. Like I get a few bucks off of TikTok sometimes if things go viral. I don't really care. Well, I do, but there are multiple purposes for short video. All right. This is so freaking funny. Creepiest link shortener. What should I? Yeah. Click dot link. Link dash totally secure. Seems legit. This is pretty awesome. I just like, can you, I want to log into this guy's domain registrar and see all of the domains that they like generated, right? Moderation tools are in place to prevent abuse. Suspicious links, even if not reported, or reviewed and removed. Oh man. You cannot shorten links that take an action on the user's behalf, start a download, link to phishing sites, or log a user's IP address. Next to nothing. IP addresses are logged in lieu of accounts. Whatever. Super, super, super funny, though. Like, I want to know how many domains they had to register. Well, I mean, like, you can use multiple ones and then do subdomains, but still, like, he had to have done a bunch. All right, let's get this up. There you go. You guys saw how the sausage is made on a short form video. That's the trick, man. Short form video, you just got to rip it. A lot of people over edit their short form stuff. People don't like that, right? I mean, you guys in here, you were just like, hey, this was super laid back. I was like chilling on my break in the parking garage, hanging with you, talking about malware. It's like, I don't know. For me, I'd rather this. Like, I put stuff out that I'd like to consume, right? That's like my litmus test is like, would I watch this? And like, I don't really like a lot of super highly overproduced stuff. All right, let's cross post this really quick. Secure.click.link seems legit, bro. Yo, so who has seen, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Instagram now has like auto translations for my videos. So I I can like check them out when they're done. And I get like a full video. I guess it's AI translated. And so it actually changes my lip movement too. And so it like legitimately it's not like dubbed. It's my voice. My lip movement has changed and I'm like speaking Hindi or Portuguese or something. It's a little weird and crazy. It's like super strange to like notice that happen. It's like, oh, I don't speak that language. All right, let me cross post it one more time. And then if you guys didn't know, I just film on TikTok. It saves locally without the watermark once you post it there first. And then that video just gets cross posted on the other platforms. It's kind of funny. There's very little overlap between the audiences though. All right. Anything else you want to talk? Bill, what were we talking about with George? Do I got to pull something up? I can pull something up if you want. Let me pull up George. What were you saying in chat? Sorry, I was like in the middle of talking about something else. Something new from George Hume. I can like Google it. Oh, is it Cybersec? No, not Security Boulevard. What's the new website called? Isn't it Cybersec? Oh, cybersecmedia.com. Oh, he's got Gootloader. I was talking about this. Oh, I should have linked to, oh, he just came out with it today. I covered this in my newsletter last week. Looks like George talked about it today. Did he go into anything new or did we already talk about this? Gootloader weaponizes format flaws to evade detection. This was the malicious zip thing. Yeah. We already talked about this. I gotta keep George's stuff bookmarked. Let me add this to my my RSS feeds. So if you guys don't know, cybersec.media is put out by it's the business that started HuSecCon, like the biggest cybersecurity conference in Houston, kind of in Texas, basically. They are rebranding. So they're trying to become less Houston specific. And this cybersec is like their new stuff. And so they're doing a lot of like news. So obviously a lot of like crossover into what I'm doing with Vulnerable You in terms of like news and a podcast and things like that. I've actually been a guest on their podcast before. So they're giving it a go, but they hired George Hume and Bill Brenner, who's in chat right now, to be writing a lot of their articles. George and Bill have been writing cybersecurity news since it existed, and are awesome. So add them to your RSS feeds. They're doing good stuff. It looks like George did go a bit deeper than some of the other news stories, but I did already cover that in the newsletter this week. But George is awesome. So you could see this is the normal article page, and George has written pretty much all of them so far. I think they do have some guest posts, and they just hired Bill. So this is going to change soon. Yeah. Making the blogger list with Bill Brenner. Bill, you were the most recent visitor on Cybersec Media. All right, I got to add this to my RSS feeds. I'll make sure to do that before I write the newsletter this week. Full disclosure, you're the editor-in-chief. Congratulations, Bill. Well deserved. Cool. Anything else? So yeah, what other stories do we want to talk about? Should I make one more YouTube video before I get offline? I could. Should we go into that confer? Oh, I kind of went to that confer thing. I'm going to see if my editor can use my whole rant about the Confer app at the beginning. If you guys were here for that, I'm going to see if you can just use that as a YouTube video. It's going to be a test. So I'm not going to record local files for that. We're going to see. All right. Let's maybe do this one. So this combines a few things that I've been talking about a lot lately. All right, so what I'm going to try to do as we start to do this a few times a week, we'll gain some muscles here. But hopefully the plan is to have a little bit more planned segments, right? So we'll plan a little bit more of like the 30-minute segments that we're going to do, but before I even go live. And I'm hoping I can get some help with that. But for now, since we're just like all chilling family and friends in here, we've got, we're going to like plan it together. I am going to record this one. Okay. So we're going to see, we might not use this one. This is a learning experience for all of us, everybody. So fake ad blocker extension crashes the browser for click fix attacks. The reason I just honed in on this one, I haven't read this yet, but I have done a lot of videos about browser extension security, which is like a topic that I know a lot about and have worked a lot in over the years. Fake ad blockers via malvertising, another topic I've covered a lot, and click fix attacks, another topic I've talked about a lot. So this is like an intersection of a bunch of stuff. Oh, and one of my favorite companies on the planet, Huntress, where John Hammond works, is the one who put out the research. So I'm guessing in this bleeping computer article, we're going to get a link to the Huntress article. There it is. There we go. Published Friday? When was January 16th? Dissecting crash fix. Kong Tuke's new toy. I don't know how to say that at all. So let's figure out what we're going to talk about, and then we're going to hit record, and we're going to record a video, and you guys are going to hang out for it, all right? Sound good? Then if you're here when this goes live on YouTube and you were here, you are legally obligated to comment on that YouTube video and say, I was there. I was there when Matt recorded this. You can all say hi, YouTube. I don't think that we'll get chat in the local recordings. I think I set it up so that chat is hidden on the local recordings. Not like you guys are very talkative right now, even though there's still like 15 of you hanging out across the 2 streams. All right. This is where I put my screenshot of a Google ad. If I had one, oh, I love Huntress so much. So they're using malvertising, but it seems like we don't have it. Wait, am I missing something here? Let me turn off disconnect. Oh, I knew it. I wasn't getting a video in this article because I had disconnect. If you guys don't know that, disconnect browser extension is pretty legit, but it does break a lot of stuff. So I'm guessing this was like Google content loaded in for this video. So you got to like kill disconnect every once in a while. So analysis revealed this campaign observed threat actors using malicious browser extension to display a fake security warning claiming the browser had stopped abnormally and prompting the users to run a scan. So what do we got? So Microsoft Edge. I wonder if this is just Edge or not. So this is actually a website, not an actual error. That looks legit, right? Microsoft Edge stopped abnormally, detected potential security threats, run a scan, help make Microsoft. This looks so legit. That's just a website. Using a malicious browser extension to display. Oh, so well, it's an extension. So it looks a little bit better than a website, I guess, right? Because it's a pop-up. But that's scary legit. That's scary legit. That is something people fall for, right? So they revealed this campaign is the work of Kong Tuke, a threat actor we've been tracking. I don't know how to say this. Do you say Kong Tuke? Kong Tuk? Kong Tuk? I don't know. A threat actor we've been tracking since the beginning of 2025. Latest operation, we've identified several new developments. A malicious browser extension called NextShield impersonates a legitimate uBlock Origin Lite ad blocker. A new click fix variant we've dubbed Crash Fix, that's what we just saw, that intentionally crashes the browser, then baits the user into running a malicious command. And Modelo Rat, a previously undocumented Python rat. What's this video? Let's look at this video. NextShield Smart Ad Blocker, install it. This is in the legitimate Chrome web store. Love it. This ad blocker is a game changer. 5 stars. Go ahead and get it. Is this Chrome or Edge? It looked like the Chrome web store, but I thought they were doing some Edge stuff. So they install the extension. Then what happens? A pop-up. Edge stopped abnormally. Run scan. Scanning the system. This looks so legit. That's really, really good. That's really good. Security issues detected. Okay, here's where the click fix comes, right? But everything until this exact moment was a smokescreen of trust building for this. WinR, Control V, press enter. So you've clicked that run scan button. What that did, because you clicked, there's a JavaScript on click event that puts stuff into your clipboard. You can't load stuff into someone's clipboard like automatically, but after a click you can. And a lot of times they do fake CAPTCHAs to get you to click because these little buttons, you see these little like copy to clipboard buttons, they just hide those. Then, or they're actually just telling you, oh, they didn't even do that. I'm sorry. I got ahead of my skis. The repair command was copied to, oh no, it was. If you're having trouble, you can manually copy it. Malicious command. So what's the command? Start runs a background command shell. Copy win directory, finger exe temp ctexe, confirm, reach out to command and control, and do your thing. That's good. Good video, Huntress. All right. The ad directed users to the official Chrome web store, which I guess works in Edge, huh? NextShield Advanced, lending false legitimacy to the malicious extension. The registered email for the developer is Alanya. It's probably a compromised thing. They don't have a screenshot of the ad. The deliberate targeting of domain joined machines suggests Kongtuke is after corporate environments where a foothold means access to Active Directory and lateral movement. Home users on standalone workstations receive a separate infection chain that appears to still be in testing. When we finally got through all the layers, the CT responded with test payload. Whether this means non-domain targets are lower priority or the campaign is still being built out, one thing is clear. Kongtuke is evolving their operations. So the crash fix, well, we just kind of saw the video of this, but let's see what they say about it. We're not about to blindly paste from clipboards. We tried copying and pasting the displayed command. Like civilized malware analysts, the browser's response, complete freeze. When your fix crashes, the name writes itself. Say hello to crash fix. Before we go deep diving, we need to, how we ended up with this, okay, they're just going to walk you through what we just watched in the video. The header falsely attributes the code to uBlock origin. The actual uBlock origin is located at this GitHub, not the URL referenced in the malicious extension. NextShield extension is almost entirely a clone of uBlock origin Lite. The URL in the header of background.js does not exist and suggests the threat actor simply ran a few find and replaces to replace every instance of uBlock with NextShield. Interesting. NextShield was live on the Chrome Web Store January 14th. So this is within days of us talking right now. So this is like fresh malware. Most of the files in the extension contain only changes to the name or similar wording and are all within a few bytes of each other. So this is basically a uBlock origin clone. Cool. All right, hold on. I blew past this too fast. I thought this was stuff we would know. The extension defines its command and control configuration in an obfuscated variable. I'm guessing this is deobfuscated. Base URL next shield? Snealed? It looks like snealed, right? Note the typo squatting in the base URL. Yeah. It is snealed. UID generation is a common practice. When the extension is first installed, it sends a beacon to the attacker's server and opens a thank you page. Install beacon on extension update. Additional telemetry is sent, including the previous version. The extension sets an uninstall URL to track when users remove it. Notifies the threat actors when it's removed. It's interesting. Delayed execution. To evade detection and avoid immediate association between the extension install and malicious behavior, the payload uses Chrome's Alarms API to delay execution by 60 minutes. We've seen some more sophisticated malware use a variable delay. So it's not like an hour after, boom, shit starts exploding. The extension sets up to 2 timers. The first triggers once after 60 minutes. The second fires every 10 minutes after the initial trigger. This timing strategy is in place so that when a user installs the extension, nothing malicious happens immediately. 60 minutes later, the malicious payload activates, and every 10 minutes thereafter, the payload continues to execute. So that's kind of what I was talking about, but it's still a little like rigid. So you're able to fingerprint it like this, right? Small biz cyber guy, popcorn, yellow striped. What's up? Small biz cyber guy, are you in any way related to accidental CISO? He talks a lot about small business cyber. He's kind of an internet buddy of mine. Browser resource exhaustion. The core malicious payload is a denial of service attack against the victim's browser. So it just like loops, crashes the browser. The user fell victim to the infection, quickly Googled commands in an attempt to remediate it. Fortunately, Huntress was able to assist with this is actual info off of a victim. Fix Chrome if it crashes, won't open, where Google searches that the victim started after they fell for the extension. Huntress is scary with how much info it has. It's kind of wild, of course, right? Resource exhaustion, timer, whatever, DOS. The code below is responsible for displaying the fake crash fist security warning. Got it. We already went through that. Anti-analysis. The pop-up also implements anti-analysis techniques to prevent users from inspecting the page. It blocks keyboard shortcuts to dev tools, disables right-click context menus, and prevents text selection and dragging. All bypassable, but just like, yeah, okay. The new toy, started using Finger in December, just a few weeks ago, is a legitimate Windows activity originally designed to retrieve information about users on remote systems. However, threat actors have repurposed it, living off the LAN binary, because it can fetch data from remote servers and pipe the output directly to the command line. So it copies Finger exe from System32, renames it CT to avoid detection, and then uses it to connect to the remote server and pipes the output. Sick. I didn't know this about this finger.exe. TIL. Today I learned. Upon execution, the Finger command retrieves a large code blob containing obfuscated PowerShell. Okay, so this is like the second payload. Ops for the malware equivalent of stacking napkins over a secret message. Multiple layers of base64 encoding and XOR operations. Yeah, I got it. Is any malware analysis complete without memes? Thank you, Huntress, for including Shrek memes. When you ask Kong2k how many layers of obfuscation it uses, ogres have layers. Kong2k has layers. Scans run processes of 50 plus analysis tools. Scans running processes for 50. If any are found at oh, so this is anti-detection stuff. Checks if the machine is domain joined or standalone. Sends a post request with installed products and if it's standalone or not. Domain join, get the VIP treatment. Serves a newly developed backdoor. Modelo Rat. Modelo Rat is organized into 4 primary classes. RC4 Stream Cipher. Core operational module for system reconnaissance, command execution, path generation, randomization, and C2. This is really interesting. All right, I'm just getting my bearings on this and we'll record a little summary video and you guys can watch me record the summary video. On initial execution, Modelo Rat establishes persistence by modifying the script path. Obfuscation and anti-analysis. We're not going to go through all this. Forever Alone non-domain joined additions. If you have spent any amount of time analyzing SOC ghoulish examples, your eyes glaze over. Stage 4 might trigger some flashbacks. Subtract number. Stage 5 delivers even more PowerShell, even more obfuscation. At this point, you might be wondering if Kong2k gets paid by the layer. Yeah, who wrote this? This is funny. Okay, more obfuscation techniques. This is really in-depth analysis. God, Huntress, you're so great. And this malware came out the 14th. I'm recording this the 20th. You wrote all this up already? Sick. All right. I'm now well deeper in the weeds of the malware analysis than I generally go in my videos. Yeah, anti-analysis checks. If it's in a VM, it just exits. It does this by doing math on the actual stuff going on. Okay, so if it's in a blacklist, add 54 billion, debugger, add 56 billion. Makes sense, right? And then it can figure out what's going on based on what was added to it. Victim's computer name, fingerprint analysis. Server can look at a key, conclusion. Malicious browser extension. Okay. We're not going to go through all the malware stuff in the actual YouTube video. All right. But let's see what we want to talk about. All right. Whoever's still here after deep malware analysis, holy crap, right? That's like not usually what I do. what's bleepings? Bleeping. Does bleeping dig anything up outside of the Huntress thing? No. For non-domain hosted, normally home users, the command and control server returned a test payload message indicating either low priority or work in progress. It's funny. All right, I don't think anything else in the bleeping article. So we're going to stay with the Huntress article. Thank you, Bill. Bill's awesome. For any of you who follow Bill's stuff. Oh, is this? Yeah. I follow her on social. I got to write her and tell her this is awesome. And it was funny. How many times did that make me laugh while I was doing it? All right. We're going to try, and this is an interesting experiment too, because we're 2 hours and 40 minutes into the live stream. And I was really interested to see if things would degrade as I went, especially if I started recording multiple segments locally. So you guys are all part of the experiment of recording YouTube videos while live streaming. So thank you for that. This is like, I'm trying to, you guys don't care, but I'm trying to get to the point where I'm time boxing my content creation, right? I'm doing so much content in a given week, and YouTube is like the hardest thing that I work on. It's so hard to like get in the mode, figure out, like you saw, I just had to like read all that, understand it enough to talk about it. There's like hours of pre-work, usually about like an hour from the time I hit record, and I was editing it all myself too, poorly, right? So YouTube is really hard. So I've put a lot of effort into and like brought some of the new team members on to help. I'm trying to time box it. So like if I'm live for a few hours on Tuesday and Thursday, hopefully a bunch of good YouTube content falls out the other side. So, and newsletter content and news blog content, stuff like that. So really time box it so it doesn't just like absolutely bomb my week, because I got a lot of other stuff I'm trying to do. All right. What's my hook here? I don't know what my hook is here. The other thing, holy crap, it's really hard, is YouTube titles and thumbnails. I'm really bad at them. So if you know anyone who's good at them, let me know. Good in a not cringy way. I'm not trying to be Mr. Beast. I'm just trying to get people to click my freaking video. I get really bad click rates. All right, we're going to start recording. Look, I've got my little stream deck. I've got the record button. So I can start and stop recording, and I can even turn my light on and off with it. Ooh, lighting control from buttons on my desk. All right, we're going to record. And recording. Looks like we're good on recording. It's time for another, I might have fallen for this kind of attack, and it covers all of my favorite topics. I feel like Stefan, it has everything. It's got fake browser extensions. It's got malvertising. It's got ClickFix. It's got a brand new family of malware, and it's got a new thing called Crash Fix. Not even just ClickFix, we have Crash Fix. This is gonna be a little bit deeper of a malware analysis as this video goes, but I'm gonna show you the really cool, tricky part up front. So watch longer if you want the malware analysis part. But to get right to it, we've got this awesome, just awesome write-up. I just went through it live on stream of this malware write-up from Huntress, dissecting Crash Fix, Kong Tuke's new toy, Kong Tuk. I don't know how to say this. I've never heard it out loud. I've only read it a few times, right? But we have a fake browser extension that was live in the Chrome Web Store that was being distributed via malvertising, meaning they were buying Google ads talking about this new ad blocker that would then get people to install this Chrome extension. And what it did was crazy. We're going to show you a video right off the bat of what this did. So thanks, Huntress, for doing it. So it was called Next Shield. They're typo squatting part of it. This is a legitimate extension in the Chrome Web Store. It's got a bunch of like, oh, look at all these cool reviews that we've got, right? And it's basically a clone of uBlock Origin Lite, almost to the letter, like a few bytes off. But we'll get to it. So here they go. They installed it. I think they're using Edge for this demo, but it's obviously it's in the Chrome Web Store. So it works. It's installed. They're showing you that it's installed, but watch the nastiness that comes up now, right? It's going to have a pop-up, right? Where Microsoft Edge has stopped abnormally. Hold on, I'm going to pause it here. This looks pretty legit, right? This is actually a fake pop-up from the extension that then is just convincing you to click this run scan button. Watch how legit this looks too. This just looks like stuff that Microsoft would do, right? Scanning system files, browser data. Please wait while we scan your systems. There was even like a nice little checkbox that says like, do you want to help Microsoft send the crash report? This is stuff that like you're used to. Here's where it goes off the rails. If you've watched my videos about ClickFix, here it is. Here's ClickFix, right? Everything up until this point was a smokescreen of trust building. We were just trying to get you to trust this screen right here. Because if you follow these instructions, you're done. You're toast. You're absolutely hosed. You are installing this malware. So if you don't know what ClickFix is, if you haven't watched my videos, what they were getting you to do by clicking that run scan button, they used JavaScript on the page to put a malicious payload into your clipboard by clicking. They can't do that without you clicking. So a lot of times you'll see like a fake CAPTCHA we've seen for ClickFix. But in this case, it was a malicious extension that you downloaded via an ad, most likely, that then looked like it crashed, or it didn't look like it crashed. It looked like your browser crashed, unrelated to the extension, to get here. Now you, by clicking that run scan button, you have their malicious payload in your clipboard. If you follow these instructions on screen, if you press the Windows key and R on your keyboard, it's going to open a command prompt. If you press Control V, it'll paste the thing that they stuffed into your clipboard. And if you press enter, it's going to run it in your host. You're done, right? And they even put a little helpful, hey, it's in your clipboard, but in case that broke for some reason, here's our command down here that you can go ahead and copy, right? But all this is doing in the clipboard is this. It is opening up a command prompt behind the actual command prompt that you did it, so all the activity can be hidden. And then here's where the malware analysis will get to it. It's using a program that's already on your computer called finger.exe to then reach out to its malicious server and start to load some other payloads and run some commands, steal your information. The other new parts of this that we have never seen before is the new bits. Whoa, burped in the middle of talking. Oh, thank God we can edit, right? The other new bits that we haven't seen before are the new Python malware, this Modelo rat. It's previously undocumented Python rat that we're just finding now. This report, I'm recording this on January 20th. This report came out January 16th, and they first saw this in the wild January 14th. So this is like hyper new malware and attacks. First of all, shout out to Anna, who I think wrote this. I follow you on social media. You're awesome. And this report genuinely made me laugh a bunch of times, including this meme where it said, this is where I would put my screenshot of a Google ad if I had one. So they have evidence that this was being served via malvertising, but they were never targeted by the ad. So they obviously don't have a screenshot of it. They try to get them when they can. The other really interesting part about this malware, it is trying to focus on corporate victims. So it is doing a lot of analysis once you install it to figure out if it's part of an Active Directory organization so that it could do lateral movement. If you're just a home user, you get a whole different set of payloads and set of malware, including something that just says test payload at one point. So either they haven't actually finished this part of the malware yet, and this is a feature that is going to come in the future to this, or they don't care and they're really just trying to go after organizations, right? So what's different about this? So the ClickFix stuff that we've covered in the past was really just like the fake CAPTCHAs or otherwise getting you to click on the website to get this then fix into your clipboard. This being called crash fix is because they simulate a browser crash like we saw in that video, but then they also do actually crash the browser sometimes. A lot of the first payload that this browser does is a denial of service loop. It goes into an infinite loop and it actually crashes your browser. The way that Huntress knew this, if you don't know, Huntress is a piece of security software that's installed on a lot of machines, and they get a lot of this telemetry from their customers kind of globally, right? And so they were able to see, let me scroll down a little bit to it. They were able to see the actual like victim of this. This is information off of the victim's machine. These were a bunch of the Google searches that the victim ran after they installed this extension. Chrome repair command, fix Chrome if it crashes or won't open. So this extension actually crashed this victim's Chrome to the point that they were trying to fix it. And Huntress knows this because they can see the searches from this. Every time Huntress posts some of this malware analysis and they can like show what they see about the users, people are like, what? This is basically spyware. Yeah, like, of course. Like EDR, XDR, whatever, CrowdStrike, Huntress, it's going to be able to see everything that goes on in the computer. If you're working for a company and they have security software on your machine, they want to be able to see everything that's going on your machine. So, don't use your corporate machine for personal stuff. And this is why. So going back up, so this is probably what the ad would look like, right? This is the legitimate search result, not a sponsored search result, but it's probably very similar if they were going to do this malvertising one. And it's called Next Shield Smart Ad Blocker. And Huntress actually did a bunch of analysis of the code of the extension, because when you install an extension locally, you get like most of the code. There's obviously a back end, but you get like, the whole extension code in your browser. You can do some reversing of all of this, right? It turns out like almost byte for byte, this extension is uBlock Origin Lite. They just really like search and replaced uBlock Origin and replaced it with Next Shield. A bunch of these URLs, even in like the headers here, broke. This URL does not exist. They just replaced uBlock Origin with Next Shield. But the other stuff that they obviously added to it, besides the byte for byte like version of uBlock, is all the malware stuff. So, getting a bit into the malware analysis, first, they do have this obfuscated bit of a variable that's reaching out to their command and control server. This is actually a misspelled. It's not Next Shield. It's Next Snealed. Kind of interesting, right? I did look at that. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But then what it does is a whole bunch of fingerprinting of your device. Because again, it's trying to figure out if your device is worth doing the rest of the malware-y things that it's going to do. But one of the sneaky things that it does, I've seen sneakier versions of this in other analysis, but this is still really kind of fun to go into, is it uses Chrome's Alarms API to delay execution by 60 minutes. And then it does another check about every 10 minutes thereafter. So this is trying to decouple the point from which the user downloads and installs the extension from suspicious stuff happening on the device, right? So they're trying to detach it in your brain of like, oh, my browser crashed, or I saw that weird pop-up come up, for intelligent, users who, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say intelligent, but like people who know what ClickFix is, this whole like Windows R thing. If I saw that, I would immediately know it's ClickFix because I do this for a living. It's obviously very tricky for normal users, and it's been hyper successful. Anyone I talk to that works in incident response right now is working ClickFix incidents right now. It's hyper successful. But so in order to, again, like get away from, oh, I installed that extension and then something bad happens, they wait an hour. And then after that hour, they do that initial trigger, and then they do additional parts of the payload every 10 minutes thereafter. When I say I've seen trickier versions of this, what I mean is this is static. This is a static number, 60 and 10. I've seen them that do them variably. So at some variable pseudo-random time in the future, grab one part of the payload. And then at like another variable random time in the future, grab another part of the payload. So no whole payload is coming over, and it's not at predictable intervals. This really starts to like make the malware reversing that we're doing here harder. This, I guess, was fairly easy for this team. Maybe matters less because we have all the code of the extension. So like, they didn't have to do any crazy malware reversing here. It's like, oh, Chrome.alarms, 60 minutes, right? Like, because this is just all bundled with the extension. Then we get into what the malware actually does that's nefarious, including this browser resource exhaustion. So there's some details here, but really it's just setting a loop to do like a billion things and crashes your Chrome browser or your Chromium browser. This will work on any Chromium browsers that can install this extension. So in that video, it was Edge. And again, we have evidence of this because the victim that kicked off this whole like investigation by Huntress started Google searching, what do I do when Chrome crashes? We don't have to get into like a whole bunch of the actual malware analysis. It's doing a lot of things that you would expect in terms of fingerprinting the device and then starting to try to grab sensitive information. But I do also really like to go into a lot of the anti-analysis things that it does. So this is trying to make sure that the technical savvy, users or, huntress malware reverse engineers makes their job a little bit harder. These ones are very bypassable. Sometimes they get kind of interesting and they do a little bit later too, but it is blocking keyboard shortcuts for dev tools, like to bring up that dev tools part of a Chromium browser to like inspect what's going on in network traffic. It also disables right click menus that would also be able to like inspect element or bring up the network menu. And then it prevents text selection and dragging, again, to like move stuff out of the malware interface into something that you're going to analyze. The one bit, this was the TIL. I didn't know about this finger.exe. If you malware nerds did, sound off, call me stupid, whatever. I didn't know about this. So this is a legitimate Windows utility that's originally designed to retrieve information about users on remote systems. And it goes way back, early days of the internet, apparently. But recently, threat actors have been repurposing it as a live off the land thing because they can use it to fetch data from remote servers and pipe the output directly to the command line. Doesn't that sound super useful if you were writing malware? It is, right? And this is why this command that they pasted into your browser was so easy. It's just like fire up this finger exe and then rename it ct.exe just to avoid detection and things like that. And then just start sending commands to the command line. By the way, reach out to this remote server and pipe it to command. So hyper useful for malware developers, even though it's a legitimate thing that's already sitting on your Windows box. And then like the rest, like you can see, if you could see my little scroll, I don't know if you could see my scroll on the screen. I'm not even halfway through this malware analysis. Almost the rest of this is this Kong2K or Kong2K group layering obfuscation. They make the joke at some point that they think they're getting paid by layer to just try to, break analysis or get, what we're doing to be harder. A lot of it is multiple layers of base64 encoding and XOR operations. They say Kong2K opts for the malware equivalent of stacking napkins over a secret message. So, base64 and XORing is easily reversed. It's just tons and tons of layers. Again, with the memes. Thank you, Anna. When you ask Kong2K how many layers of obfuscation it uses, ogres have layers. Kong2K has layers. Again, some of the more interesting things that I do want to hit in the malware analysis is the anti-analysis techniques. So scans running processes for 50 different analysis tools like Wireshark or Process Hacker or IDA, and then VM indicators. This is super common these days. I just covered on my live stream before I started recording this, like 3 different malware families that are going around right now, and they're all checking if they're in a VM, and then they behave differently. Right. In this case, if any of these things are found, this process exits immediately. It's like, nope, I'm out. You're obviously trying to analyze me as malware. I'm going to stop. Right. So this is like a cat and mouse game that then malware reversers need to figure out how to avoid their detection of them analyzing the malware in order to properly analyze the malware. As I said at the beginning, it checks if the machine is domain joined or standalone via this workgroup indicator, and this helps the attacker distinguish between corporate targets. It's very much getting into corporate targets. It sends a post request to grab some C2 stuff. If it is domain joined, as they say, this gets the VIP treatment. It gets the rest of the payload. It's like, oh, this is a corporate thing. We're going to do lateral movement. We're going to bring this new rat on, this Modelo rat, which has all sorts of different components. It's like a really kind of in-depth bit of malware. And it's going to get a lot versus the standalone machines, which get a whole lot less of all of this. All right, we're not going to dive too much deeper into the rest of this malware analysis. It's a lot of obfuscation and anti-analysis techniques, and it's a lot of, grabbing the different command and controls. But I just wanted to show you guys mostly was this new crash fix things. This looked so legit. Everything up until the point of that click fix in that video was so convincing to me, right? It's like you have this legitimate looking extension with tons of ratings. It's like, hey, yeah, look, it's got ratings, guys. suspicious. They all happened on the same day, December 1st, 2025. That's interesting. But looks legit. It is almost a byte for byte clone of uBlock Origin. So it probably feels legit once you install it. And then an hour later, your browser crashes. Kind of nasty stuff. So would you guys have fallen for this one? Would anyone in your life have fallen for this one? I think that I would have, I don't know. I don't know if I would have fallen for the actual click this run scan thing, right? Because usually when apps crash and they're like, hey, send information to me for analysis, I click no. But even clicking no would have gotten me a step further in this because they would have put it on my clipboard. I don't know. I think I know enough about ClickFix to not have fallen for this one. But this is really, really sneaky, really sneaky. And I don't even know if ClickFix needed to get sneakier. It's so successful already, right? Like the Cloudflare CAPTCHA ClickFix stuff going on is already hyper successful. People are having a hard time not falling for that. So, all right, Huntress, Anna, fantastic write-up, just absolutely fantastic. I can't believe that this malware came out 6 days ago. You wrote this 4 days ago. Like this is brand new malware, and I have a multi-page lines of code malware analysis through all that obfuscation. Great work. This is fantastic stuff. This is kind of stuff that we need to keep on top of to figure this out. I had to make this video. This was like a Venn diagram of all my favorite things: browser extension security, ClickFix, new malware. It had everything. All right. If you like this, do all the YouTube things. Sound off below. And all right, if you like this, do all the YouTube things down below. It helps the channel so much. Subscribe if you haven't already, and follow for more cybersecurity news. All right, we did it. We recorded two YouTube videos while live. Welcome back, Cuscos. I didn't have chat up while I was recording, but just saw you. I do have to sign off, get a little food before an actual meeting that I have coming up that people are texting me about. Hey, you have a meeting in a few minutes. Don't miss it. Yeah, I won't. All right. So this was cool. Like I said, I'm probably going to do this every Tuesday and Thursday for sure. I think this week, since I'm just kicking the tires and getting started, I probably will do this for a little bit tomorrow morning too, because I have it blocked off. So we're going to do at least Tuesday, Thursday. Maybe we'll throw in Wednesdays sometimes as well. And we'll figure out what schedule works best. But you can kind of keep an eye on my YouTube and Twitch channel in the mornings, in the middle of the week. And I'm going to do this, every week from here on out. So thanks for hanging out. Rock and roll, Cuscos.